You've been told that success, control, and constant effort are the keys to a fulfilling life. That if you just push harder, fight more, and plan everything perfectly, happiness will come. But if that were true, why do so many people who have it all still feel overwhelmed, burned out, and disconnected? Why do you still feel like life is slipping through your fingers? Like no matter how much you try, peace is always just out of reach. The truth is, life isn't something you force into place, it's something you flow with. Buddhist wisdom teaches that true peace comes not from struggling but from letting go. When you finally stop fighting against the current, you start to move with it. Life begins to feel lighter, easier, and even more meaningful. Tonight, as you dive into these teachings, something inside of you will shift. You'll feel the tension in your mind start to ease, the pressure to always be in control will begin to lift, and with it, your sense of calm will deepen. You'll see how life doesn't need to be forced, it needs to be embraced. And when you wake up tomorrow, you'll carry that peace with you, moving through the world with more ease, clarity, and trust than ever before. This isn't just another talk to listen to. This is a shift, a transformation waiting to happen. Are you ready to stop forcing and start flowing? Let's begin. You've spent years chasing results, trying to control every moment and force outcomes in your favor. But as time passes, it becomes clear that no matter how much you try, something always feels off. The harder you push, the more exhausted you become and the further you feel from peace. What if instead of constantly striving, there was a way to achieve more by doing less? What if you could step back, stop forcing, and still see life unfold with ease and success? Buddhism and Taoism, two ancient philosophies that have survived for centuries, hold the secret to this paradox. They teach us that sometimes the best way to succeed is to let go. It's about learning to act without forcing, to achieve without striving, and to flow with life instead of fighting against it. This isn't about passivity. It's about aligning yourself with the natural rhythm of life, allowing things to unfold at their own pace. Effortless action is not about doing nothing. It's about doing the right thing at the right time without unnecessary struggle. In Taoism, this concept is called Wu Wei, the art of doing without doing. It's the idea that by aligning yourself with the flow of the universe, you can accomplish great things with little to no effort. This idea perfectly aligns with Buddhist wisdom, which also emphasizes the importance of letting go of control, of trusting that life will unfold as it should. By understanding the connection between these philosophies, you can learn how to let go and still achieve everything you desire, but with a sense of ease, grace, and peace. When you stop forcing, you create space for natural achievement to take place. The harder you push against the current, the harder it becomes to move forward. But when you trust the flow of life and stop trying to control every outcome, you begin to move effortlessly towards your goals. This doesn't mean you give up or stop working towards your dreams. It means you stop fighting against life's natural course and begin to move in harmony with it. Wu Wei teaches us that force and effort are not always necessary for success. In fact, excessive effort can sometimes be the very thing that prevents us from achieving what we want. When you try too hard, you end up creating resistance. You become trapped in a cycle of striving and overthinking, and that very resistance pushes your desires further away. When you step back, when you stop forcing things, you open yourself up to the possibility of effortless achievement. Think about water. Water flows easily and naturally, carving out paths through rock over time without force. It moves with the contours of the land, shaping its path effortlessly. In the same way, when we let go of our need to control everything, we begin to flow through life. We align ourselves with the natural rhythm of the world, and in doing so, we begin to move towards success without all the struggle. Taoism is all about aligning yourself with the Tao, the natural order of the universe, and thereby taking effortless action. When you are in tune with the Tao, your actions are not labored or strained. They come to you naturally and with ease. Everything you do is in flow with life. Therefore, success follows, not because you work harder, but because you are in step with that which already is. Similarly, Buddhism puts forward its own important philosophies concerning non-attachment and acceptance. When we stop clinging to our desires and to the need for control, we let go of resistance. The struggle, in allowing life to be as it presents itself, without forcing life to fit a mold, is overcome through mindfulness and the release from attachment. It allows room for the unfolding of life as it should, bringing about peace and clarity instead. Wu-Wei also applies to Buddhism since the more one resists, the more they will suffer. If you're fighting life, creating friction that will make that forward path more difficult, you learn to yield and surrender, and in those moments, life isn't an uphill battle anymore. You learn to trust that life knows the way and that by letting go of your need to control, you're softly carried toward your goals. You're no longer swimming upstream. The real power of effortlessness arises in understanding that reaching goals is not forcing yourself to do everything perfectly, but being with each moment, being conscious of your actions, and letting things happen as they should. The more you trust the process, the more natural your actions become. This is not sitting back, waiting for things to happen. It's about acting with intention and then allowing life to support your efforts in ways you can't imagine. When you let go of the need to control every step of the way, you invite in new possibility. The universe has a way of guiding you toward what you need when you don't know what you need. The more you let go, the more room there is for unexpected opportunity. This, in turn, allows you to achieve more with less struggle or force. Think about those instances when you've been completely present, not in the past or future, but wholly immersed in the now. In these moments, you feel a sense of ease, a natural flow that doesn't require effort. It's what happens when you align yourself to the universe's flow. When you stop forcing, life simply starts unfolding naturally, and you get to fulfill your wishes without struggle. Letting go also means letting go of perfection, because the more you want perfection, the more you close yourself off to the natural unfolding of life. Perfectionism often creates anxiety and stress since you create unattainable standards for yourself. But when you stop forcing perfection and allow the natural imperfections of life to flood in, you open space for peace and growth. Instead of trying to be in control, you begin to trust that everything will, in fact, take care of itself in due time. In Buddhist teachings, the practice of mindfulness plays a huge role here. Mindfulness allows you to step back from the constant noise of your thoughts and simply observe what is transpiring around you. It helps you to stop overthinking, letting go of the compulsion to always achieve more, and become more present with what is. By practicing mindfulness, you learn to act with intention without the need to push and force things into existence. This creates ease in everything that you do. Acceptance is another major component of both Wu-Wei and Buddhist teachings. Acceptance does not mean giving up. Acceptance is an acknowledgement that there are things beyond your control. When you accept that some things cannot be forced, you create room for things to fall as they naturally will. Acceptance brings peace because there isn't a struggle, you're not fighting the current anymore. You float downstream with it, trusting that you'll arrive at the right place at the right time. In both Taoism and Buddhism, detachment is highly valued. Detachment does not mean stepping away from life, but rather letting go of the emotional attachment to certain outcomes. The moment you detach, you cease pushing for things to happen your way. You let go of the anxiety of wanting things to be a particular way, and you let life happen without resistance. The more you learn to practice detachment, the more you realize that life works very good when you do not try to control it. Success does not always come from your efforts alone. The best things in life often come when you can least expect them or when you stop forcing them. In that sense, you allow life to surprise you with better results than you could have planned. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means choosing to trust the process and moving ahead with awareness and clarity. The moment you stop forcing, you allow yourself to be spontaneous, to allow life to take turns. You come to trust that what you need will emerge at the right time without the need for excessive trying. There is patience, too, in this. When you stop forcing, you give yourself the gift of time. You are not sprinting through your life, rushing to attain everything as quickly as possible. You instead take time to savor the journey. You learn to trust that all in life happens in due time, and it's a trust that creates deep peace in the heart of you. Patience is not waiting, it's being present with every moment, knowing that everything is happening just as it should. Finally, the more effortless action you practice, the more life will be lived as it was meant to be. Easy, peaceful, with a natural flow. When you stop forcing, you make room for creativity to flourish. You let new ideas emerge, new paths to unfold, and new possibilities appear. You surrender control and trust the process, creating a life in which success, happiness, and peace occur all by themselves. As you begin to practice letting go and embracing effortless action, you'll start to notice a profound shift in how you experience life. The struggle will fade away, and in its place will be a deep sense of calm. You will be more connected to the present moment, more in tune with the rhythm of life, and more open to the blessings that come your way. Wu Wei and Buddhist teachings offer a path of success without struggle, peace without resistance, happiness without chasing. When you stop forcing, life will flow with ease, and what you want will come to you, naturally and without all the effort you thought necessary. As you start to let go of your need to force outcomes, a subtle shift begins to take place. The struggle that once defined your every move begins to soften, and suddenly you find yourself facing life with a new perspective. This shift opens a door to something deeper, something more profound than simply ceasing to fight. It's the understanding that life has its own rhythm, its own flow, and when you stop resisting it, you enter a space where things begin to unfold effortlessly. This is the essence of surrendering to the flow, and it's not about giving up. It's about releasing the tight grip of control and allowing life to work with you rather than against you. At the heart of Buddhist wisdom is the concept of non-resistance, a principle that teaches us to stop pushing against life's current and instead flow with it. This is not about passivity or resignation, but about stepping into a deeper connection with the universe, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. The more you resist, the more you create friction and the more life feels like a battle. But when you allow yourself to surrender, to stop fighting against what is, you become aligned with a natural force greater than yourself. This is where real transformation begins. In Buddhist teachings, non-resistance is often described as acceptance. It's the practice of embracing life as it is without judgment, without trying to change every circumstance to fit your desires. By surrendering to life's flow, you stop creating unnecessary tension and instead become open to the beauty and wisdom that each moment holds. It's a shift from fighting the present to fully participating in it, no matter what it brings. This act of surrender is not about being passive in the face of difficulty. It's about choosing not to react from a place of resistance, fear, or frustration. It's choosing to meet life's challenges with acceptance and grace, trusting that just like the changing seasons, this too shall pass. Non-resistance allows you to meet each experience without the burden of trying to control or force it, and in doing so, you allow yourself to be present to truly experience life. When you surrender, you begin to realize that control is an illusion. For years, you may have believed that if you could just manage every aspect of your life, your relationships, your job, your goals, you would be happy and secure. But over time, you come to see that control only breeds anxiety. It keeps you tethered to the fear of losing what you think you have or failing at what you think you should be achieving. The truth is, life is constantly changing and you cannot control it all. Surrendering is not about giving up on your goals, it's about giving up on your need to control every step of the process. One of the most profound aspects of non-resistance is the realization that when you stop fighting against life, you start to trust in it more deeply. It's like letting go of the reins of a horse. You allow the horse to guide you, and in return, the ride becomes smoother, more natural. You stop trying to dictate every turn and instead you allow the experience to unfold. The more you trust the flow of life, the more you see how everything works together in ways you could never have planned or controlled. When you surrender, you open yourself to a higher intelligence, a force that knows far better than you what's best for you. Surrendering also teaches you to accept what is beyond your control. Life brings with it pain, loss, and challenges. For most of us, our natural instinct is to resist these experiences, to wish they weren't happening or to fight against them. But Buddhism teaches us that suffering arises from resisting reality, from wanting things to be different than they are. The more you resist what is, the more you suffer. But when you stop fighting, when you stop demanding that things be other than they are, you create space for healing and transformation. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up or becoming passive. It means letting go of the need to control the uncontrollable and accepting the moment for what it is. This doesn't mean you stop making efforts or setting intentions. It means that you stop tying your happiness to the outcome. You stop attaching yourself to a specific result. Instead, you focus on the process, the steps you take, the lessons you learn, and the experiences you gain along the way. By surrendering the need for specific results, you open yourself to the full spectrum of life's experiences. You may not always get what you want, but you'll receive exactly what you need. A key component of non-resistance is letting go of attachment. In Buddhist philosophy, attachment is seen as the root of suffering. We attach ourselves to ideas, people, outcomes, and material possessions thinking they will bring us lasting happiness. But when these things change or disappear, as they inevitably do, we feel pain and loss. Non-resistance teaches us to hold things lightly, to enjoy them while they're here, but not to cling to them as if they are permanent. Everything in life is transient, and when we learn to release our attachment to these fleeting things, we create space for something deeper and more enduring. The process of surrendering also leads to a deeper sense of peace. When you stop resisting, you stop creating unnecessary stress and tension in your life. You begin to feel lighter, more open, and more connected to the world around you. By surrendering, you stop fighting against life's natural flow, and in doing so, you allow yourself to flow with it. This creates a profound sense of peace that can only be experienced when you stop trying to control the uncontrollable. This peace is not the absence of challenges, but the acceptance of them as a part of life's journey. Another aspect of non-resistance is patience. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to become impatient with life. We want things to happen quickly, we want results now, and we want our plans to unfold as we expect. But life rarely works on our timeline. By surrendering to the flow of life, you learn to be patient not just with others but with yourself. Patience is not waiting idly for something to happen. It's the understanding that things unfold in their own time, and you are part of that process. Patience is the space between action and result where trust and acceptance can grow. By surrendering to the flow of life, you also learn to realize that everything serves a purpose, even the most painful of struggles. Life is not random. It is filled with meaning, even if that meaning does not always seem immediately apparent. When you stop resisting, you begin to see that everything good and bad has a place in your journey. Every experience is an opportunity for growth, learning, and self-discovery. By surrendering, you let go of the need to understand everything at once, and instead you allow life to reveal its wisdom in due time. Surrendering is also about learning to let go of expectations. Expectations are a form of resistance, a mental image of how things should be. When things do not happen as one expects, frustration, disappointment, and sometimes even despair arise. By surrendering expectations, you free yourself from the constant pressure to control the outcome, and you open yourself to something better, maybe something you could never have imagined. Non-resistance deals with releasing the need for life to be a certain way and trusting that whatever comes is exactly what you need at this moment. One of the most profound changes that occurs in surrendering to life's flow is the emergence of wisdom. When you stop fighting, you allow clarity and insight to arise. Through surrender, a truer view is possible without the fog of wants, attachments, or resistance clouding perception. In such clarity, choices can be made which are in alignment with your true self rather than by fear or insecurity. Wisdom arises quite naturally when one stops fighting against life and instead begins to embrace life just as it is. As you begin to practice non-resistance, you also learn the art of forgiveness. Holding on to grudges or past hurts is a form of resistance. It ties you to the past and keeps you from moving forward. When you surrender, you release the need to hold on to old wounds. You allow yourself to forgive, not for the sake of others, but for your own peace. Forgiveness is not about condoning hurtful behavior. It's about releasing the emotional charge and freeing yourself from the pain of the past. The act of surrendering also deepens your connection with the universe. When you stop trying to control everything, you open yourself to the guidance and support of a greater force. The universe is always in motion, always working in ways that we often cannot see. By surrendering to this greater flow, you begin to trust that everything is working together for your highest good. You stop seeing yourself as separate from the world, and instead you become one with it. This connection brings a sense of belonging, purpose, and peace that can only be found when you stop resisting the flow of life. Ultimately, surrendering to the flow of life leads to freedom. Freedom from anxiety, from the need for control, and from the pressure of expectations. When you stop resisting, you allow yourself to experience life as it is in all its beauty and unpredictability. This freedom is not the absence of challenges, it's the acceptance of challenges as part of the journey. When you let go of resistance, you open yourself to the fullness of life, and in that fullness, you find true peace. As you continue to explore the nature of non-resistance, you'll realize that it's not about abandoning your goals or desires. It's about finding a new way to engage with life, a way that is free from struggle. When you stop fighting against life's flow, you begin to flow with it. And in that flow, you will find that everything you need, everything you desire is already coming to you. The key is not to force it, but to let go and trust that life will bring you exactly what you need, exactly when you need it. This is the wisdom of surrendering to the flow, not as a passive retreat, but as an active engagement with life that invites peace, clarity, and wisdom into every moment. As you begin to flow with life, releasing the grip on control and surrendering to the natural rhythm of existence, a deep realization begins to dawn. The pursuit of those external desires, the things you think will bring you happiness, security, or fulfillment, are not the answers you have been searching for. In fact, the more you chase these desires, the more you move yourself away from the true peace that dwells within you. Realistically, this is how it works. The relentless pursuit of accomplishments and possessions tends to cloud your inner peace and often leaves you empty despite everything you've accumulated. The idea that happiness can be found in having more, doing more, or becoming more is just a trap one that leads to greater dissatisfaction. And that is the paradox of desire. The more you chase, the further away you get from contentment. Yet contentment is not something to be pursued. It is something that arises when you stop chasing. This ever longer chase for more, whether in money, status, recognition, or possessions, pulls you further away from the simplicity and peace lying at the core of who you are. The world convinces you that you need all these things to feel complete, that your success or happiness depends on what you have or on the achievements you unlock. Still, in this manner of constant striving for external validation, you lose sight of the most important thing: peace within. The Buddhists refer to this as the endless cycle of attachment, a cycle that keeps you bound to the want for more, leaving you unfulfilled and restless. In Buddhism, the concept of desire is seen as one of the root causes of suffering. The more you cling to the belief that happiness is something you can obtain from external sources, the more you increase your dissatisfaction. Desire creates a gap between what you have and what you think you need, constantly propelling you forward in search of something that you believe will complete you. But this external search is an illusion. The truth is, contentment doesn't come from obtaining more things, but from releasing the attachment to needing them in the first place. This is the essence of non-attachment, the Buddhist concept that teaches us to experience life fully without becoming dependent on external circumstances for our happiness. When you stop pursuing desire as a means of happiness, you begin to discover the profound peace that comes from embracing simplicity. It's in simplicity where true contentment lies. The more you accumulate, whether it's material possessions, achievements, or relationships, the more you become burdened by the need to protect, maintain, or constantly strive for something else. This burden weighs on your soul and distracts you from the peace that's always been available to you. Simplicity doesn't mean living a life devoid of ambition or desire, but it does mean that you stop attaching your sense of self-worth or happiness to the things you acquire. It's about understanding that you are complete just as you are. When you find contentment in the present moment, you stop needing things to be different than they are, and you start to realize that everything you need is already within you. The pursuit of external desires also brings with it a constant sense of restlessness. No matter how much you achieve or acquire, the mind remains restless, always searching for the next thing that promises happiness. But true contentment, as found in Buddhist teachings, comes when you stop looking outside yourself. The mind, with its endless cravings and attachments, is never satisfied because it is constantly moving toward the next object of desire. When you surrender the need to chase these desires, you allow yourself to experience a stillness that doesn't depend on external circumstances. This stillness is where contentment resides. In a world that values achievement, success, and progress, it's easy to become trapped in the belief that happiness is something to be earned. But when you begin to see through this illusion, you realize that true peace comes from being rather than doing. You stop measuring your worth based on accomplishments or possessions, and instead you find satisfaction in the simple act of living, the joy of being alive, of breathing, of experiencing each moment fully, is more than enough. This is the fundamental teaching of Buddhism, that suffering arises from attachment to desires and the belief that they are necessary for happiness. The more you chase after external goals, the more you end up creating a sense of emptiness when you finally attain them. But when you shift your focus from desire to contentment, you start to experience life in a deeper, more meaningful way. Contentment comes from the realization that you don't need anything to be happy, because happiness is already here in the present moment. One of the most profound ways to cultivate this sense of contentment is through mindfulness. Mindfulness is the practice of being fully present, not lost in thoughts about the past or future. It's about experiencing the present moment as it is without judgment or expectation. When you are truly present, you stop chasing after the future and let go of the past. You experience life as it is, and in that experience, you find peace. This practice helps you reconnect with the joy that exists in the simplicity of life, in the small moments that often go unnoticed when you are constantly rushing to get somewhere else. Contentment is not about denying yourself pleasure or enjoyment. It's about realizing that joy doesn't come from external sources, but from the way you relate to the world around you. When you stop seeking validation or external rewards, you begin to cultivate a deep sense of peace and fulfillment. This inner peace becomes a source of strength, something that is not dependent on circumstances or outcomes. When you stop focusing on acquiring more, you begin to appreciate what you already have. This shift in perspective allows you to experience gratitude for the present moment and for the simple pleasures in life, like the warmth of the sun on your face, the sound of birds singing, or the feeling of a loved one's touch. These small moments of joy are often overlooked when you are chasing after something bigger or better. But when you practice contentment, you begin to see the abundance that is already present in your life. The more you practice contentment, the more you realize that true wealth lies not in possessions, but in peace of mind. When you let go of the need for more, you create space for a deeper connection with yourself and with others. The desire for more is often driven by a sense of lack, a belief that you are incomplete without something. But when you recognize that you are already whole, you stop chasing external things to fill the void. This recognition is liberating, as it frees you from the endless cycle of craving and dissatisfaction. Another key to contentment is embracing impermanence. Everything in life is temporary, and the more you cling to things, the more you increase your suffering. When you let go of the need to control everything or hold on to things forever, you begin to experience peace. Impermanence is a natural part of life, and when you accept it, you stop resisting the changes that come your way. This acceptance allows you to flow with life rather than fight against it, and in this flow, you find contentment. Contentment is also about being at peace with yourself. So often we look outside ourselves for happiness, believing that the right circumstances or achievements will finally make us feel fulfilled. But true contentment comes when you stop seeking approval or validation from others. You begin to appreciate your own worth just as you are, without needing to prove anything. When you are at peace with yourself, you stop needing to chase after things to feel good enough. You recognize that you are already enough, and that is the foundation of true contentment. This journey towards contentment is not about being passive or avoiding challenges. It's about finding peace within yourself regardless of the external circumstances. Life will always present challenges, but when you cultivate contentment, you face those challenges with a sense of inner peace, knowing that you don't need anything outside yourself to be happy. You are already whole. In that realization lies the greatest happiness of all, a peace within and not from the constant pursuing of desires outside. As you stop chasing after external desires and shift your focus inward, you begin to live in a way that is truly fulfilling. You stop measuring your worth by what you have or what you've accomplished, and you begin to appreciate life for what it is. Contentment becomes not just a state of mind, but a way of living, a living that is simple, peaceful, and full of joy. And in this simplicity, you find the richness of life itself. As you begin to understand the profound peace that comes from embracing contentment, you start to notice something even more powerful waiting to unfold within you, the power of stillness. In a world that constantly pushes you to do more, achieve more, and keep moving forward, there is an essential practice often overlooked: mindful inaction. The idea that inaction can be a powerful tool for peace may seem counterintuitive, but in Buddhist teachings, it's one of the most transformative practices you can adopt. When you stop chasing external desires and even start to slow down your actions, you create a space within yourself where clarity and peace can naturally arise. Stillness isn't about doing nothing. It's about creating a space where your mind and body are in harmony, where your thoughts and emotions don't control your every move. In this space, you are free to simply be, and in that being, you discover a profound sense of clarity that is more powerful than any action could ever bring. Buddhism teaches that the mind is often restless, constantly moving from thought to thought, worry to worry, and desire to desire. This restless state prevents us from experiencing true peace. When we embrace stillness, we quiet the mind, creating a gap where wisdom and clarity can arise. This is not a passive stillness, it's a purposeful quieting, a mindful inaction that allows us to let go of distractions and focus on the present moment. The power of mindful inaction is rooted in the concept of presence. To be fully present in each moment is to let go of the need to constantly be doing, thinking, or achieving. It's in this state of presence that you begin to notice what's truly important: the quiet space between breaths, the subtle sensations in your body, the simple beauty of being alive. In this stillness, you stop reacting to life from a place of anxiety or desire, and instead start responding with clarity, compassion, and wisdom. When you practice mindful inaction, you also practice non-attachment. You release the need to control outcomes or manipulate situations. Instead of trying to force things into being, you allow them to unfold naturally. This doesn't mean you stop taking action in the world. It means that you no longer feel the constant pressure to act out of fear, habit, or the desire to control. Instead, you take action from a place of inner stillness, clarity, and trust. You move with the flow of life rather than against it. In Buddhism, stillness is often seen as a form of meditation. Meditation isn't about forcing your mind to be quiet, it's about allowing it to settle naturally. Through the practice of meditation, you learn to become aware of your thoughts without getting caught up in them. You watch them come and go without judgment. This is the essence of mindful inaction, observing life as it is without feeling the need to react or control. It's in this state of awareness that you begin to experience the world with greater clarity and peace. The idea of mindful inaction also ties into the Buddhist principle of non-resistance. When you stop resisting life's flow, you stop pushing against things that don't go as planned. Instead of reacting in frustration or anxiety, you accept what is happening, trusting that it's all part of a larger process. This acceptance allows you to move through life with ease without getting tangled up in unnecessary struggles. Inaction here is not about doing nothing, but about not doing anything that isn't in harmony with your real purpose and letting everything happen naturally. In a society that glorifies constant doing, mindful inaction can feel uncomfortable at first. We are conditioned to believe that if we're not doing something, we're not being productive. But what if true productivity lies not in doing more, but in doing less and doing it with intention? Mindful inaction allows you to step back, take a deep breath, and reflect before taking action. This space of reflection gives you the clarity to make decisions with purpose rather than reacting impulsively. Stillness in action in the Buddhist sense is about making decisions from a place of calm, not stress or overwhelm. When you're constantly on the go, constantly reacting, it's easy to make choices based on fear, worry, or habit. But when you create space for stillness, you allow your mind to clear. And with that clarity, your choices become more aligned with your true values. You act from a place of wisdom, not anxiety. This process of slowing down and practicing mindful inaction also helps you cultivate greater awareness of your emotions. When you're constantly on the move, emotions can build up without you even noticing. You may feel overwhelmed, stressed, or frustrated but not fully aware of why. But when you pause, when you allow yourself to sit in stillness, you begin to notice the subtle emotions that arise within you. This awareness allows you to process your feelings rather than reacting to them impulsively. You can then choose how to respond to your emotions rather than being controlled by them. Buddhism teaches that suffering arises from our attachment to the idea that life should be a certain way. We resist things that we don't want, and in doing so, we create more suffering. Stillness and mindful inaction give you the opportunity to step back from this resistance. By simply sitting with what is without trying to change or control it, you allow yourself to accept reality as it is. This acceptance, in turn, releases the suffering that comes from resisting life's flow. As you practice stillness, you may begin to notice something profound happening inside of you. Your mind becomes less cluttered, your heart more open. You start to feel a deeper connection to the world around you, not because you're striving to make things happen, but because you're simply allowing things to be as they are. This sense of connectedness is the natural result of mindful inaction. You become attuned to life's subtleties, to the flow of energy around you, and you find peace in just being present. Mindful inaction also allows you to develop a deeper connection with your own intuition. When you're constantly busy and distracted, it's easy to lose touch with your inner wisdom. But when you practice stillness, you create the space necessary for your intuition to rise to the surface. You begin to trust that inner voice, the quiet knowing that guides you toward your true purpose. This is not a mind that is frantic or filled with noise. It is a mind at peace, listening to the wisdom that arises from within. Another important aspect of mindful inaction is its relationship to patience. We live in a culture that values speed and immediacy, but Buddhism teaches us that true change comes slowly. Through continuous practice and inner growth, patience is the foundation of mindful inaction. It's about trusting that everything will unfold in its own time and knowing that rushing through life won't bring you closer to your goals. By practicing stillness, you learn the art of patience, allowing things to unfold naturally and with purpose. As you cultivate this stillness, you begin to notice that the world around you becomes clearer. The constant noise, the endless demands of the outside world begin to fade into the background. In this space of quiet, you gain a new perspective. You start to see things with greater clarity, people, situations, and even yourself. This clarity is one of the most powerful gifts of mindful inaction. It allows you to navigate the world with calm and wisdom, no longer reacting impulsively to every situation. In Buddhism, inaction or being mindfully inactive does not mean withdrawing from life, but rather being involved in it with calm and poise, finding harmony between action and stillness. You can still be active, continue to pursue your goals, but do so with an awareness that comes from within. You are no longer pushed by external pressures or internal anxieties. Rather, you act with intention from a place of inner calm. In this practice, you'll also find that stillness brings with it a sense of freedom. So long as you are constantly in motion, constantly doing, there is little time for real reflection or clarity. Your life has become one endless series of reactions and responses, driven by forces other than yourself. And when you practice mindful inaction, you create the freedom to choose how you respond to life rather than being carried away by the currents of stress and distraction. Free to be yourself, to act with purpose, and to live in alignment with your deepest values. Finally, as you continue to practice stillness and mindful inaction, you begin to realize that life itself, the life that you know and live, is a form of meditation. You do not have to go to a quiet retreat to find peace. Peace is available at any time in every breath. By practicing mindful inaction, you step into the present moment with complete awareness, embracing life just as it is, without the need to force, control, or change it. In that acceptance, you find the peace and clarity that you've been searching for. Mindful inaction teaches you that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. It is in the stillness, in the silence, that you find the answer, the peace, and the wisdom that were inside you all along. As you explore the power of stillness and the profound peace of mindful inaction, you may begin to notice something else that quietly influences your thoughts, actions, and feelings: the ego. It's that part of you that always seeks recognition, approval, and appreciation. The ego can be a driving force in your life, pushing you to achieve, to prove yourself, and to always be more. But what if this very force that propels you forward is the same one that keeps you trapped in a cycle of unnecessary struggle, never truly finding peace? The ego lives for external recognition in its unending craving for validation. It creates identities for us, roles we play, labels we wear, and expectations we are constantly trying to meet. But it all comes at a price. Every time you fasten yourself to an identity, whether it be as a successful professional, loving parent, or even spiritual seeker, you bind yourself to a certain set of expectations. And these expectations can be a heavy burden. The more you cling to them, the harder it will be to feel free. The ego's struggle for validation keeps you locked in a perpetual loop where you constantly chase something that feels just out of reach. The biggest source of unnecessary struggle is this seeking of external validation. The ego relishes comparison and competition. It compares you to others, going by your achievements, status, and approval from the outside world unendingly, whereas, no matter how much you achieve, the ego wants more. This forms a vicious cycle since the ego's appetite is insatiable. No matter how much you achieve, however many accolades you get, the ego will always want more. All this keeps you in a never-satiated state of desire, wherein you believe that once you achieve a particular goal or status, then you will be satisfied. But actually, the more you feed the ego, the more it demands. The ego keeps telling you that you are not enough. You should be more, do more, achieve more. This creates tension in your life, this pressure to keep proving yourself, striving, and winning. All the time, you feel like you are running a race that does not end, allowing you no time to be yourself. You get more exhausted with every effort to meet the demands of the ego. And yet, no matter how much you can achieve, you always find yourself longing for more. The irony is that the more you try to prove yourself, the further away you get from the truth of who you really are. The ego tricks you into thinking that your value lies in the things you do and the validation you get from others. Your true value, however, has always been inside you, untainted by the pressures of external validation. But the moment you let go of that grip of the ego, you start to uncover the freedom that lies inside. Freedom to exist, to simply be without the need to prove anything to anyone, including yourself. When you are attached to your identity, you constantly identify with roles that the world has given you. These roles become so inculcated in your psyche, as a parent, as a spouse, as a boss, and even as a spiritual seeker, that you actually think you are them. The moment you identify with any external label, you create a rigid structure for yourself, one that keeps you locked in a narrow perception of who you are and what you can be. But the truth is that you are not your roles. You are not your achievements, your past successes, or your failures. You are simply life experiencing itself, not defined by any particular identity. Releasing attachment to these identities does not mean that you will drop them, but it means that you are not held down by them. You can still be a parent, professional, or friend. However, these do not define you anymore. They are part of your life, not the entirety of it. Whenever you attach to your identity, you begin seeing yourself as a unit without fragmentation into parts that are in constant conflict with one another. One of the most liberating things about releasing the attachment to the ego is it allows you to experience life as it is, without judgment or expectation. You will not compare yourself to another when you let go of the need to prove your worth. The ego is driven by the need to be better than someone else in order for them to feel accomplished or successful in the eyes of the world. But when that attachment has been given up, then there is no longer the need to measure against anyone. You exist as yourself with all your flaws and imperfections, and in that space, you find true peace. It's tiring because the constant struggle for approval pulls you away from the present. You are always looking at what should be instead of embracing who you are at that particular moment. Your ego is constantly projecting itself into the future, seeking to find recognition in what it can be, and fails to understand the attractiveness of the now. Yet, once you give up the need to pursue something out there, content with only what is, true liberation ensues. That very moment your struggles for approval end is the moment you start to experience life in its fullest manifestation. As you cease to identify with your ego, you also discontinue identification with all your fears and complexes. The ego feeds off fear, the fear of failure, of being judged, of being rejected. These are fears that keep you in the circle of struggle, constantly defending yourself against criticism, failure, and discomfort. But when you let go of attachment to those fears, you stop reacting to them. You are no longer controlled by the stories that the ego tells you about who you are or who you should be. In contrast, you can look at life's difficulties with a composed and open mind, knowing full well that no one and nothing can define your self-worth. True freedom is the liberation that results from releasing attachment to the ego. Free from the need to prove and seek approval, you learn to stop fighting for a place in this world. In releasing the hold of the ego, you step into your own authenticity. You start living life on your own terms and not based on the expectations of others or the identities that you have adopted. You no longer feel the need to prove your worth to anyone. You live for yourself, not for external validation. And in this freedom, you find the deep peace that has been waiting for you. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of non-attachment not just to material things, but also to concepts and identities. The more you attach yourself to an identity, the more you limit yourself. You find yourself trapped within a box that the ego has created, keeping you stuck in outdated beliefs about who you are and what you can be. When you let go of these attachments, though, you open yourself to the endless possibilities of life. You don't define yourself by what you do, what you have, or what others think of you. You define yourself by the mere fact that you exist as you are in this moment. It is not the denial of one's individuality that is the ego, but the understanding that your real self isn't confined to any identity or name. When you let go of the ego, real freedom begins. Freedom to live as your heart wills, unencumbered by an unending compulsion to prove one's worth to the world. And herein lies the peace that comes from this particular kind of freedom, because it is an inner one, independent of the world's appreciation. As you continue letting go of the attachment to the ego, you begin to notice that there's been a subtle shift in how you see the world. The need to continually compete, compare, and seek approval fades away. You start to be much more present in your interactions, much more authentic in your relationships, and much more at ease with yourself. You are no longer at war with who you are. Instead, you unfold your true self, free from the constraints of ego. And in this freedom, you find the peace that you have been searching for all along. It is a process, and one that does not happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and the willingness to look deep within. But as you practice detachment, releasing the need to constantly validate yourself through external means, you will find that the struggles you once had begin to dissolve, the constant din of the ego quiets, and you discover in that silence a profound sense of peace and freedom that was always there, lying in wait, ready to be uncovered. As you release the grip of the ego, shedding its constant demand for validation and control, you might find yourself standing at the edge of something even more transformative, the art of letting go. For years, you have been told that control is the key to success, that you must hold on tightly to your desires and the outcomes that you want. What if in letting go, you find a freedom more powerful than any amount of control could ever offer? Buddhism teaches that detachment and the releasing of control are not weaknesses, but pathways to true peace. We are living in a world that asks us to strive continuously, manage continuously, and push forward. This notion that one should always be in charge of one's life, surroundings, and even thoughts brings immense pressure and stress. But Buddhism offers another view that is radically different. Letting go of the need to control opens the door to the deepest freedom you could ever experience. When you seek control all the time, you create resistance, resistance to what is to change, to the flow of life. Yet, life has its way of constantly changing, evolving, and shifting. Control, no matter how tightly you hold on, is an illusion. Truly, life moves along no matter how hard you try to direct it. And in forcing it in your direction, you find yourself swimming against the current, exhausted, overwhelmed. Letting go of control, however, allows you to align with that flow, to move with life rather than against it. One of the strongest points in Buddhist teaching is that everything is impermanent. The people, the situations, the thoughts, and even emotions that you hold so dear will turn out to be impermanent. Holding on to the idea that things ought to remain as they are, or hopping to control the outcome, is one of the sources of suffering in life. When one clings to the illusion of permanence, one sets oneself up for disappointment and pain. But where one opens up one's thinking to the fact that everything is temporary, one allows room for peace and acceptance. Letting go is not a matter of running away, but simply of releasing the need to shape events such that they fit into the mold with which you are familiar, allowing them to unfold as they will. In Buddhism, letting go is not a form of passive resignation, but an active practice of non-attachment. The mind develops the wisdom to realize that even though one can make choices and take actions, the results are beyond one's personal control. This shifts the intent from one of needing to constantly manipulate the outcome, to doing one's best in the moment and letting life take its course. When you let go, you stop trying to control what happens next, and instead you cultivate trust. Trust that the universe will deliver what is meant for you in its own time and way. This trust allows you to release anxiety about the future. Most of the stress we experience in life is tied to our obsession with outcomes. We want to know how things will turn out, and we want to be able to steer the course of our lives. But when you let go, you stop clinging to the future. You allow yourself to live in the present moment, free from the need to predict or control what happens next. It is in that place that true peace comes, not in the certainty of what's to come, but in the ability to let go into the unknown, trusting that everything will unfold just as it's meant to. When you let go of your need for control, you also let go of the need for performance. The ego is fed by accomplishments and acknowledgement, and it continuously measures itself by what it has done, what it has accomplished, or what it has amassed. But this hankering for outward acknowledgement will only bring exhaustion and emptiness. You may have achieved a great deal of success, but the sense of fulfillment is usually not enduring. In Buddhism, you do not perform to be acknowledged. You simply are, to be with life without constantly reaching toward a goal. When you let go of the need to perform, you stop exhausting yourself in the pursuit of recognition. Rather, you start to experience life in all its beauty and peace without attaching your worth to some external achievements. Letting go of control also entails letting go of the need for perfection. Perfection is another form of attachment to belief that things must be flawless in order to be good enough. This belief keeps you locked in a cycle of dissatisfaction and self-criticism. But when you let go of the need for perfection, you create space for acceptance. You start to appreciate things the way they are without being constantly driven to make them better. That is where life's beauty actually lies, in its imperfection. By embracing imperfection, you free yourself from the pressure to always be perfect and allow yourself to experience peace even in moments of flaw. Non-attachment does not mean you stop caring about the things in your life, but rather, you are no longer dependent on them for your happiness or to have a concept of self-worth. You cease to cling to relationships, successes, and material possessions as if they define you as a person. You come to realize that all of these things are temporary parts of your journey, not part of what defines you. And when you let go of attachment, you're still capable of appreciating life's pleasures, but you no longer have to bear the weight of clinging to them. You can appreciate a beautiful sunset without wanting it to last because its beauty is in the now, not in how long it remains. Equally significant is the connection between letting go and the Buddhist practice of mindfulness. Mindfulness is the capability to be wholly present with whatever is occurring at the moment without judgment or resistance. It is about allowing life simply to be as it is without trying to alter or manipulate it in any particular way. When you are mindful, you open space to let go. You cease resisting what is going on at this very moment, and instead, open to it totally. Mindfulness allows one to be in the present moment, to be part of a life that is real without any need to control or change it. Letting go means releasing your attachment to the outcome. Living in a world that primarily focuses on the end result can make it challenging not to get attached to the idea of success lying at the very end of the achievement. But Buddhism teaches that in reality, fulfillment does not come from the outcome, but in the process. By releasing the attachment to the outcomes, you cease to view your life as something made up of tasks, and instead begin to embrace it as a journey that one must experience. This changed perspective helps you approach everything with much ease and without constant pressure to get everything right. You free yourself from anxiety created by not being able to meet expectations, either yours or others. As you start to practice letting go, your emotions will begin to settle down. No longer burdened by the constant necessity of control over everything, your emotional state undergoes a remarkable change. Anger, frustration, and anxiety often develop when one is unable to exert control over things. It is through our letting go of control that we automatically cease fighting what we can't change. Instead of going through unwarranted emotional responses because life is uncertain, we learn to find our peace in uncertainty. We learn to accept those things that are beyond human control, and it is in acceptance that freedom is found. The Buddhist principle of letting go also teaches us to embrace forgiveness. Forgiveness, both for ourselves and others, is part of releasing control. Often, we hold on to the past or mistakes because we need to control the narrative in order to make things right. But when you let go of the need to control the past, you release the emotional burden of grudges, regret, and resentment. Forgiveness is not about condoning what happened. It's about releasing the need to hold on to it, enabling you to move forward with peace in your heart. Letting go is not about an act of giving up. Rather, it's the action of trusting that things will be okay even when they don't appear as they seem. It means trusting that life is unfolding just as it should, even at moments of uncertainty and adversity. In trusting the process of life, you open yourself up to new possibilities that you may never have seen had you been focused on trying to control every last detail. Trust allows you to let go of the fear of the unknown and to move into the present, recognizing that life has a way of taking you in the direction you need to go, even when you cannot see the way. The more you practice letting go, the more you'll feel a sense of peace and freedom from releasing the need to control. This peace is not passive or complacent. It's an active choice to engage in life without needing to manipulate it or change it. It is peace because you can be with what is without resistance. The more you let go, the more you experience life with an open heart unencumbered by the weight of control, full of trust in the journey ahead. Embracing the art of letting go, you step into a life where peace, freedom, and joy are found not in control but in acceptance. The more you release, the more beauty and freedom you find in simply being. And in that simplicity lies the deepest form of peace. As you release the need to control and embrace the beauty of letting go, you will find that life's constant changes are not something to be feared, but rather welcomed. Perhaps one of the deeper teachings within Buddhism is the law of impermanence. It reminds us that everything within our universe is in constant movement. And the more we hold on to what we perceive as permanent, the more we set ourselves up for disappointment. This truth, though unnerving at first, holds the key to ease with which we can live, even through great transition. In a world of change, permanence is an illusion, a comforting illusion, but an illusion nonetheless. We want stability. We want to hold on to what feels safe, and we resist when things shift or evolve. However, the law of impermanence teaches us that change is the only constant. This realization can be liberating, as it opens up the doorway to flexibility and peace. When you begin to accept that change will always occur, you can begin to live in harmony with life's flow and no longer struggle with what is occurring. In Buddhism, impermanence is often referred to as anicca, one of the three marks of existence. Anicca tells us that everything in life, whether it's our emotions, our circumstances, or our relationships, is temporary. No matter how hard we try to hold on to something, it will change with time. When we understand that impermanence is not something to fear, but a natural part of life, we are able to navigate even the most difficult transitions with grace. In this respect, one of the biggest sources of stress in life comes from attachment to things that are bound to change. We cling to jobs, relationships, possessions, and even ideas about who we are, fearing that if they change or disappear, we will lose a part of ourselves. But according to the Buddhist understanding, it's not the change itself that causes suffering. It's our resistance to it. The tighter we hold on, the more difficult the transition becomes. The recognition of impermanence frees us from the need to control and protect, allowing us to approach life's changes with ease. It is this acceptance of impermanence that helps us find balance, especially in times of transition. When something in your life changes, whether it's the end of a relationship, a change in job, or a loss, it can feel as though the ground beneath you is shifting. These times of transition can feel disorienting, even painful, because by nature, human beings resist the discomfort brought along with change. However, once you accept the reality of change being natural, these transitions begin to be viewed not as disruptions, but rather as opportunities for growth. Change is not something to be feared. It's something to be embraced as part and parcel of life's journey. Impermanence teaches us the importance of letting go at the right moment. In this respect, just as the tree has to shed its leaves during autumn, so we too need to let go of whatever is no longer serving us, to allow room for our new growth. And the more we hold onto what is out of date or past its season, the smaller our potential for transformation. Recognizing that everything has a season puts us in the place of being able to be present with the changing moments in our lives. This openness towards change engenders freedom at a very deep level, because we are no longer weighed down by the burden of holding onto things that are beyond our control. What is truly liberating about the law of impermanence is that it encourages us to be more present with what is happening right now. So often we spend our time longing for the past or worrying about the future, forgetting that the only time we truly have is the present moment. When you understand that every moment is impermanent, you begin to appreciate the fleeting beauty of life as it unfolds. The joy of a moment doesn't come from its permanence, but from its transience. It is the very fact that a moment will pass that makes it precious. Another way this law of impermanence expresses itself is through our feelings. Our feelings are constantly fluctuating, and no emotion, whether positive or negative, will last. When we are caught up in strong emotions, be it grief, anger, or even joy, it can feel like they define us. But when we remember that emotions are impermanent, we can allow them to move through us without getting stuck in them. Just as a wave rises and falls in the ocean, emotions come and go. By embracing the impermanence of our feelings, we can experience them fully without being overwhelmed by them. The law of impermanence also invites us to practice detachment. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means being able to engage with life fully without becoming overly attached to the outcome. It's about holding things lightly, knowing they are temporary and will change sooner or later. This does not reduce the value of what we have. Instead, it increases the ability to appreciate the present moment without fear of losing it. By being detached, we produce the mental space to adjust and flow with whatever changes come along our way without attachment to any particular outcome. In Buddhism, one of the deepest practices for embracing impermanence is mindfulness. Through mindfulness, we learn to observe life without judgment or attachment. We begin to notice the ebb and flow of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences without getting entangled by them. Mindfulness allows us to experience change with clarity and awareness rather than resistance and fear. The more we are aware of impermanence, the more we get used to uncertainty and more open up to the possibilities that come with it. This realization of impermanence brings us closer to the understanding of interdependence, the understanding that all things are connected and affect each other. And just as the seasons change and influence the natural world, so too in our lives, events interlink, change, and develop. Nothing exists in isolation. Everything is constantly in flux. Understanding this interdependence encourages us to approach life with more humility and compassion, in the knowledge that our actions affect the world we live in, and that we are part of a larger flow. Impermanence, at its core, is the letting go of the need to control. Life is, for the most part, indeterminate, and no matter how we try to control it, life surprises us in any case. The more we hold onto a certain outcome, the more we set ourselves up to fall when it doesn't. But when we let go of the need to control, we free ourselves from the anxiety that comes with trying to manipulate the future. We trust that life is unfolding exactly as it should, even when we can't see the full picture. Trust in the flow of life brings a profound sense of peace. Anytime we go through transition, whether that transition is a major life change, a loss, or a sudden shift, we often feel as if we are losing something. The law of impermanence can help us understand that, in truth, we aren't losing anything at all. We're actually just passing through a time of transformation. Just like the butterfly emerging from its cocoon, we, too, are constantly growing and changing. Change isn't an end, it's a new beginning. In embracing impermanence, we no longer see transition as threatening. Instead, we realize it is a doorway into growth and opportunity. Embracing change is also about surrendering to the natural rhythms of life. When we fight against the changes that come our way, we exhaust ourselves in the struggle. But when we accept change, we align ourselves with the natural flow of life. And in doing so, we open ourselves up to new experiences and new perspectives. The more we resist change, the more difficult it becomes to move forward. But when we accept impermanence, we find ourselves able to flow with the current, navigating life's transitions with ease and grace. As you begin to absorb the law of impermanence, you will find that your relationship with time has changed. You do not feel hurried or anxious. Rather, you live life as it unravels from moment to moment. You start appreciating whatever the present is, rather than regretting whatever has gone or speculating over what will be. This turn in perception enables you to live a more peaceful, contented life as you begin to fathom that everything, joy or sorrow, is temporary and happens for a reason. Free ourselves from the need to believe in something permanent, and immediately we are free. free from the fear of loss, free from the pressure of having to keep outcomes, free from having to hold on to things that no longer serve us. The law of impermanence teaches that everything is in motion at all times, and when we allow ourselves to move with it, we experience life with greater ease, flexibility, and openness. Ultimately, embracing impermanence is about embracing life as it is. It's about accepting the natural cycles of birth and death, growth and decay, joy and sorrow. When we let go of the desire to control, we open ourselves to the beauty of life's ever-changing nature. By embracing change, we become more adaptable, more resilient, and more at peace with the flow of life. Impermanence is not something to fear. It is the very essence of life itself. And when we accept it, we find the freedom to live fully in the present moment, without the burden of clinging to what will inevitably change. As you embrace the reality of impermanence, a deeper truth begins to emerge. One that challenges everything we've been conditioned to believe about success and achievement. It's the idea that effort, while necessary in some ways, can also become an obstacle to our true potential. The more you push, the harder you try, the more you may actually limit your capacity to succeed and to experience happiness. This paradox, rooted deeply in Buddhist philosophy, uncovers a startling truth. Effort does not always lead to greater results. In fact, sometimes the harder we try, the more we block the natural flow of success. In a hard work ethic culture, such a thought is really counterintuitive. We are socialized to believe that if we only work harder, stay busier, or push through our discomfort, we will finally get what we want. But Buddhist wisdom uncovers something profound about the nature of effort. It is not about doing more. It is about doing less, doing it with awareness, and doing it without attachment to results. The harder we try to control outcomes, the more we interfere with the natural flow of life. And this striving, so often driven by anxiety and fear of failure, can blind us to possibilities that open up when we relax into the process of living. Buddhist teachings encourage us to detach from the results of our efforts, to let go of the need to force things into existence. When we stop grasping at outcomes, we create space for things to unfold with more ease and grace, allowing our natural potential to emerge. This doesn't mean that we stop working toward our goals, but it means we stop seeing effort as the sole measure of our success. The more we associate our self-worth with how hard we work or how much we accomplish, the more we tie our happiness to external factors that are outside of our control. We become trapped in a cycle of striving and struggling, believing that our worth is determined by the things we do, the positions we hold, and the recognition we receive. But Buddhist philosophy teaches us that true freedom and happiness come not from force, but from understanding the natural rhythm of life and allowing ourselves to move with it rather than against it. When you let go of the need to control every aspect of your life, something remarkable happens. You begin to align with the flow of the universe. This alignment allows you to accomplish more with less effort, tapping into your true potential without the pressure of pushing, forcing, or overworking. In Buddhist terms, this is the concept of wu-wei, or effortless action. It's the art of allowing life to unfold in its own time and engaging with the world in a way that is in harmony with its natural processes rather than against them. It's not about being passive. It's about responding to life with clarity and presence without the attachment to forcing things to happen. In contrast, the constant focus on effort often leads to burnout, frustration, and a sense of being trapped in a never-ending race. The more we push, the further we feel from the peace and contentment we desire. This is because the energy spent in resistance, whether it's resisting the pace of life or resisting our own limitations, creates more tension. When we learn to step back and trust the process, we experience a natural unfolding of events that supports us in ways we cannot predict or control. Buddhism teaches us that the attachment to effort and the need to be striving often stems from a fear of not being enough. We believe that unless we prove ourselves by hard work and achievement, we are not going to be loved or valued. It is this fear that drives us to overexert ourselves, often at the cost of good health, happiness, and relationships. But when we release this attachment to effort, we create space for a deeper connection to ourselves and others. We start to realize that we don't have to prove our worth through accomplishments or endless busyness. Our value is inherent, not dependent on external achievements. By letting go of the pressure to work harder and harder, you free yourself to experience success on a different level. Instead of success being a direct result of effort, it becomes a natural byproduct of alignment and awareness. The more you let go of the need to force things, the more you allow your potential to flow without restriction. This approach to success is not about doing more but about being more present, more aware, and more connected to your true nature. The challenge here is recognizing when your effort becomes an obstacle rather than an asset. Sometimes the most effective action comes not from force, but from surrender. When you let go of the need to control the outcome and simply engage with the process with awareness, you find that you're able to accomplish more in less time, with less stress, and with greater fulfillment. This is because you are no longer burdened by the weight of expectation. And you're no longer trapped in the cycle of striving for something you think you need. Instead, you allow yourself to be guided by the flow of life, which leads you toward the right opportunities at the right time. It seems almost like a paradox: do less but achieve more. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do any work. It means you need to shift your approach. And when you stop overthinking, stop micromanaging every detail, and stop trying to force every outcome, you start to see the natural course of unfolding. You let things happen instead of making them happen. According to Buddhism, it's in attachment to results that there lies suffering. Then, attachment to the end goal means you miss the beauty and wisdom that exist in the journey. Life is not simply about reaching your destination. It's about the experience of being fully present with each step along the way. If you are constantly focused on effort and results, then you miss the lessons, growth, and joy that simply come with living every moment. The mental strain that comes from overexerting yourself in the pursuit of achievement also creates inner tension. This tension blocks your natural flow and prevents you from tapping into your true potential. When you learn to let go of the obsession with effort and outcomes, you release this inner tension and allow your creativity, your intuition, and your natural abilities to shine. Success becomes a natural result of your ability to stay present and aligned with your inner wisdom, rather than a product of intense effort or struggle. This principle of releasing effort is reflected in the Buddhist way of meditation. Meditation is not about trying to achieve a certain state of mind or forcing a particular outcome. It's about being with whatever arises without striving to change or control it. What this practice can teach us is that when we cease trying hard to control our thoughts or emotions, we create space for them to naturally settle on their own. And when we do the same on the outside by ceasing to try and control everything around us, we leave space for things to naturally fall into place. The idea that effortless action leads to success and happiness is a deeply liberating concept. It's a reminder that we don't have to exhaust ourselves in the pursuit of external goals. Instead, we can allow life to unfold in its own time while still taking meaningful actions toward our dreams. When we shift our focus from constant effort to presence and awareness, we unlock our true potential because we're no longer bound by the belief that success must come through struggle. The moment you let go of the need to be working harder or pushing through, there is an opening for more freedom. That freedom comes from an understanding that to accomplish and be successful, you will not have to make everything in your life right. You no longer identify yourself with how hard you work, but rather with the authenticity of your presence in this moment. Herein lies the essence of what Buddhist teachings have to say on effort. Success does not result from endless striving, but rather from living in alignment with your true self, free from the pressure of constant doing. As the compulsion to force outcomes and control every aspect of your life starts to fall away, a deeper understanding begins to unfold. The more you let go, the more you realize that one of the greatest keys to ease and freedom is patience. Patience is often understood as a process of waiting without action, But within the context of Buddhist thought, it is so much more than just bidding time. It forms a skill, a strong tool whereby tension and anxiety are transformed into calm and clarity. In our fast-paced world, patience is often viewed as something passive, a waiting game until things happen. But the truth is patience is an active practice that invites us to engage fully with the present moment without the urge to rush or force things into existence. It's about understanding that everything in life has its own pace, and that resisting this natural flow leads only to frustration, anxiety, and stress. Patience helps us trust in the process of life. And in doing so, it reduces the mental noise that constantly pushes us to hurry up and get somewhere. Buddhism teaches us that patience is not merely about waiting. It's about cultivating a mindset that accepts things as they are, knowing that everything unfolds in its own time. When we practice patience, we stop trying to force outcomes or control how things will unfold. Instead, we start to understand that life is not a race but a journey, one that needs to be experienced fully without the burden of pressure or expectation. Patience essentially means being non-attached. If we attach ourselves to certain things or to results, we create stress and anxiety because we want those things now. But patience teaches us to release attachment and believe that things will get done at the right time. Even if we don't see them now, patience helps us enjoy the process and not focus on the destination, releasing the pressure of controlling each step of the way. And this releases a lot of the inner struggle that accompanies making things happen within our time frame. In Buddhism, one of the most powerful teachings is the idea that impatience creates suffering. When we are impatient, we are fighting against the natural flow of life. We push ourselves, we rush, and we force things to happen, all in an attempt to control the outcome. But this constant striving creates stress and tension in our bodies and minds. The more we fight against the flow, the more resistance we create and the more suffering we experience. Patience, on the other hand, allows us to surrender to life's rhythm, to accept that not everything happens according to our plans or expectations. It helps us move through challenges with ease, knowing that things are unfolding in their own time. In daily life, practicing patience involves learning how to deal with delays, frustrations, and obstacles with grace and acceptance. It means being able to sit with discomfort without the need to immediately fix it or push through it. This can apply to small, everyday situations, waiting in line, dealing with traffic, or even waiting for a text response. These seemingly trivial moments are opportunities to cultivate patience. Each moment of waiting is an invitation to practice acceptance, to release the urge to rush, and to find peace in the present moment, even in the midst of what may feel like inconvenience or delay. When we cultivate patience, we also begin to shift our relationship with stress. In our culture, stress is often seen as a necessary part of life, the result of a busy schedule, high expectations, and the need to constantly perform. But when we practice patience, we learn to take a step back and observe our reactions to stress. We begin to see that stress is often a result of our resistance to what is. Patience allows us to stop fighting against the discomfort and to embrace the present moment even when it's not ideal. In doing so, we reduce the mental tension that fuels stress, allowing us to move through difficult situations with more ease and clarity. It is patience that allows us to develop resilience. Life is full of troubles, setbacks, and uncertainties. The way we respond to these challenges often determines how much we suffer. When we are impatient, we tend to react impulsively, either forcing things to happen or retreating into frustration or despair. But patience teaches us to respond with wisdom and understanding. It allows us to weather storms without being overwhelmed, to stay grounded in our center even when the world around us feels chaotic. By practicing patience, we learn to resist the urge to react impulsively and instead choose to respond with calm and thoughtfulness. Another important aspect of patience is its relationship to self-compassion. When we are impatient with ourselves, we create unnecessary pressure. We demand perfection. We rush through tasks and we berate ourselves when things don't go as planned. But when we practice patience, we learn to treat ourselves with kindness and understanding. We give ourselves the space to grow, to make mistakes, and to learn at our own pace. This shift in mindset reduces self-criticism and allows us to move through challenges without feeling burdened by guilt or shame. Self-compassion is an essential component of patience because it allows us to be gentle with ourselves even when we fail to meet our expectations. In Buddhist practice, meditation is a tool that helps cultivate patience. When we sit in stillness, we practice the art of being present with our thoughts and emotions without the need to change or control them. Meditation teaches us that our thoughts are impermanent. They come and go on their own without our interference. The more we resist our thoughts or push them away, the stronger they become. But through the practice of meditation, we learn to observe them without attachment or judgment. This observation, this patience with our own mental processes, gradually transforms how we interact with the world around us. Patience also plays a crucial role in personal growth. We live in a world that encourages us to constantly improve and to be better versions of ourselves. But the journey of self-development is not a race. True growth comes not from pushing ourselves to meet external standards, but from understanding and accepting our natural rhythms and limitations. Patience helps us honor where we are on our journey without rushing toward an idealized version of ourselves. It allows us to embrace imperfection and to grow at our own pace without feeling the pressure to be someone else or to meet someone else's expectations. At a deeper level, patience helps us cultivate a sense of trust in life itself. Life unfolds according to its own rhythms, and often our attempts to control the timing of events only cause unnecessary stress. But when we practice patience, we trust that everything is unfolding as it should, even when it doesn't align with our expectations. Trusting in the timing of life rather than forcing things to happen when we want them to, allows us to move through life with greater ease and less resistance. It invites a sense of peace because we no longer feel the need to control every moment or outcome. The moment we stop running and pushing, we can find joy in the process. It is so easy to get focused on the end that we completely miss the beauty of this path called life. Patience allows us to slow down and appreciate each step, each moment, for what it is. This perspective shift also brings in greater satisfaction because it truly allows us to enjoy life and not just live to attain goals. Patience makes us appreciate those simple pleasures which come with being in a moment. Whether enjoying a quiet cup of tea, taking a walk, or having an open conversation with a loved one amidst apparent external pressure, practicing patience helps in remaining centered and calm. Life always involves unexpected events, challenges, and transitions, but in responding to them with patience, we avoid getting swept away by life's emotional waves. We don't need to act from a place of fear, anger, or frustration. Rather, we can stop, take a breath, and respond clearly. This doesn't mean we become passive. It means we develop the wisdom to know when to act and when to wait, trusting that both are necessary for growth and peace. But when we practice patience, we become more understanding and tolerant, recognizing that everyone is moving at their own pace. This creates a more harmonious connection with others, as we are less focused on demanding things from them and more open to meeting them where they are. Finally, patience teaches us that peace comes from within. When we stop rushing through life and release the pressure to achieve, we find that true happiness is not something we have to chase. It's a state of being, a natural outcome of accepting life as it is. Patience allows us to live in alignment with our true selves, free from the need for external validation or approval. It is through patience that we transform stress into ease, anxiety into calm, and struggle into peace. By cultivating patience, we unlock the freedom to move through life with grace and wisdom, embracing each moment as it comes and trusting that it is enough. As one embraces patience more and more, simultaneously letting go of the constant need to control and force outcomes, a deep insight begins to emerge. Life is not about sheer effort and will. It's all about intention, action and surrender. The concept of karma, what happens, is a product of what one has done, underlines how overexertion often brings about results we do not truly want. In Buddhism, karma means actions as well as intentions. Effort, much like the throwing of a stone, flows smoothly when it is in tune with peaceful intentions towards positive results. But excessive effort or forceful actions create friction, causing outcomes that do not align with our true desires. The idea that too much effort can be counterproductive may seem surprising. After all, we are often told that the key to success is hard work. Yet Buddhism reveals a deeper truth. Karma teaches us that when our actions are motivated by attachment, fear, or impatience, the energy behind our actions creates karmic ripples that can result in frustration, burnout, and outcomes that feel disconnected from what we truly want. In other words, the more we force or push for something, the more we risk creating karmic consequences that are not aligned with our inner desires or the greater flow of life. When you act from a place of peaceful intention rather than force, the energy you put into the world is different. It is less about striving for a particular outcome and more about being present, offering what you can, and trusting that the right results will unfold in their own time. Karma operates not only through actions, but also through the energy and motivation behind those actions. When our intentions are pure, not driven by the ego or the need for external validation, the results are more likely to be harmonious and aligned with our true path. However, when we are driven by stress, competition, or the belief that we must work harder to earn our worth, we create friction energy that ultimately leads to outcomes that feel misaligned no matter how hard we push. Buddhism emphasizes that peaceful intentions are at the root of positive karma. When your actions come from a calm, clear, and compassionate center, the force underlying those actions supports a peaceful unfolding of consequences. However, if you are too attached to the outcome, push too hard, or demand immediacy, you obstruct the flow and may accumulate negative karma in the process. Effortless effort, or wu wei, as it is called in Taoism, is letting go of needing control and trusting the natural order of things. Apart from bringing about peace, such an approach also leads to outcomes that are in harmony with your deep desires and the greater good of all concerned. It's easy to get caught up in the belief that success only comes with intense, unrelenting effort. This belief stems from a deeply ingrained cultural conditioning that equates success with struggle. But in the Buddhist tradition, effort is seen as a tool, not a force that drives us. When we use effort in alignment with the natural flow of life, when we are mindful of our intentions and actions, it leads to smoother paths and clearer outcomes. Excessive effort, on the other hand, often creates confusion and detours. The more we try to push or manipulate life to meet our desires, the further we move away from true fulfillment. It's a paradox. The more we force, the less we achieve the results we hope for. By releasing attachment to specific outcomes, we allow life to unfold naturally, which often leads to the best result. Another key aspect of karma in relation to effort is the idea of non-attachment. When you are too attached to an outcome, you are more likely to use force in order to make things happen. But the act of attachment itself creates tension. Attachment is born from the belief that something is lacking or missing, which pushes us to overexert ourselves in order to attain it. But in the Buddhist view, attachment leads to suffering. When we release attachment, we stop forcing life's circumstances into a specific mold, and instead we align ourselves with the natural unfolding of events. This non-attachment allows us to experience life with less tension and more ease, creating positive karma along the way. It's important to recognize that karma is not just about actions, but about motivation. When we act out of genuine care, love, or compassion, the energy behind our actions is far more aligned with the universe's flow than when we act out of fear, greed, or ego. For example, if you're working towards a goal purely because of external validation or to prove your worth to others, The karma created from that effort will be tinged with the negativity of attachment and desire. However, if your efforts are motivated by a sense of compassion or a desire to bring about good for others, even if the outcome is uncertain, your actions create positive karma, which leads to better results without the pressure or strain. Perhaps one of the most insightful lessons from Buddhism regarding karma and effort is the understanding of timing. Things happen in life with a certain rhythm. Events develop in certain timings, not always planned by us or within our sphere of control. When we put too much pressure on forcing outcomes, we miss the right timing of things. Patience allows peaceful intentions to realign us with the rhythm in life. We begin to see when to act and when not to act as we learn to trust the process and cease pushing against the natural flow. Such awareness of time prevents overexertion and unnecessary struggling. Buddhism also teaches that mindfulness is key to understanding the relationship between effort and karma. By practicing mindfulness, we become more aware of the motivation behind our actions. Are we acting because we feel the need to prove ourselves? Are we pushing harder than necessary out of fear or competition? Or are we acting from a place of clarity, patience, and genuine desire to contribute positively? Through mindfulness, we become more conscious of the energy we are putting into the world, and we begin to see how our intentions shape our experiences. When we act with mindfulness, we not only reduce stress and overexertion, but also create positive karma that flows toward natural and beneficial outcomes. Equally important is the connection to the idea of surrender. By its very nature, surrender is not an act of inactivity or resignation, but about releasing one's need to control the outcome and finding trust in its unwinding as it should. The more we cling to a certain outcome, the more we press against the current of life. But when we surrender to the process, we know that our efforts will take their place in the grand tapestry of life, however minimal or large they may be. Such surrender is faith. Faith in life, faith in our actions, and faith that the universe will guide us toward the best possible outcomes without the need for force. This connection with karma and effort also helps us understand how overexertion can lead to unwanted outcomes. We feel that the more effort we put in, the better the outcome will be, but that thinking is deeply connected with our belief in control. This is the very trap. The more we try to push against life, the more resistance we create, and the more we block the natural flow of success. And sometimes, when we overexert ourselves, we actually prevent what we are trying to create from happening, as the energy put out meets resistance rather than alignment. In contrast, when we act with peaceful intention, we trust our actions will bear fruit at the right time and in the right way without excessive force. Ultimately, the relationship between karma and effort reveals a deeper understanding of how to live in harmony with life. The key is to release the attachment to results and stop forcing outcomes. Effort is not about working harder or longer. It's about working with awareness and mindfulness, letting go of the need to control and trusting that our actions, rooted in peaceful intention, will lead to the best possible results. When we act with clarity and trust, we begin to experience a life of ease and flow, where the karma we create is aligned with our true desires and where success comes naturally without the struggle. This approach doesn't just create good karma, it allows us to live a life of freedom, peace, and fulfillment, rooted in the understanding that effort, when balanced with mindfulness and trust, is the key to unlocking our natural potential. As you begin to recognize how overexertion can hinder your path to success, you're presented with a powerful truth. Life has its own timing and rhythm. The more you push against it, the more you create tension and resistance. However, when you let go of the need to force and control, something incredible happens. Trust. Trust is the quiet force that allows everything to fall into place with ease. Trust in life's unfolding is a practice rooted in Buddhist wisdom, and it holds the key to unlocking miracles without the weight of constant struggle. In Buddhism, trust is not about blind faith. It is a deep knowing that life, with all its unpredictable twists and turns, is inherently moving toward harmony. This type of trust is about surrendering control and allowing the natural flow of the universe to work through you. It's about realizing that you don't have to have everything figured out, and that, in surrendering to life's process, you create space for things to unfold in ways that are often better than you could have ever planned or imagined. When you trust in the process of life, you stop clinging to the need to control every aspect of your experience. Instead, you step back, become present, and allow life to take its course. It's about trusting that everything happening is part of a greater design, even if you can't see the full picture at the moment. The more you trust, the less you interfere with life's natural flow, and the more you allow synchronicity to guide you. The key is to remember that life is always unfolding, even in the moments when things don't seem to be going the way you want them to. At the heart of it all, the power of trust is the ability to step into the unknown without fear. Trust is knowing that life is a journey and not a destination, and with every experience, with every moment, you move closer to your growth. The moment you stop trying to control every outcome, you create space for the right opportunities, people, and circumstances to come into your life all on their own. It's as if the universe works in your favor, but only if you let it work by not always getting in the way with your anxiety or doubt. One of the biggest gifts of trust is that it lets us cease to worry about the future. Worry is a means of control, one way of preparing mentally for outcomes that may or may not take place. But the more you trust that life is unfolding exactly as it should, the more you let go of needing to micromanage every moment in your life. Trust gives you permission to let go of the mental chatter that keeps you always poised, awaiting what's to come. The more you trust, the more you experience peace in this present moment, fully engaged with what's occurring now, not what could happen in the future. Buddhist wisdom teaches that attachment to outcomes is a major source of suffering. We often think that for us to be happy, things must happen in a particular way. We expect things to go our way in life, but then frustration sets in when reality does not meet our expectations. But when we trust the unfolding process of life, we let go of these fixed expectations. We learn to embrace life as it comes, with all its imperfections and surprises. Trust allows us to let go of the need for specific results and simply engage with life as it is, knowing that everything is in constant motion and that this, too, shall pass. Trust in the process means embracing uncertainty. Uncertainty makes people uncomfortable, but the more you learn to trust life, the less you need to control every outcome. You let go of the need to know precisely how things should turn out. Instead, you become more open towards the unknown, realizing that some of the best outcomes come from unforeseen circumstances. The more you let yourself be comfortable with uncertainty, the more you truly experience life's flow. You no longer feel hostage to the notion that you must have a plan for every moment. You trust that you will be guided step by step, moment to moment, without having to see the entire path in advance. The act of trusting life's process also ties directly into patience. Patience isn't about waiting passively for things to happen. It's about engaging with life without the need to rush or force. When you trust in the timing of life, you develop patience not just with external circumstances but with yourself. You stop rushing through life, trying to achieve more, faster, and better. Instead, you allow each moment to unfold as it should, knowing that everything has its own pace. Trust and patience go hand in hand, because trusting the process allows you to be patient with the way things unfold, even when it takes longer than you expected. Trust also builds resilience. Challenges, obstacles, and discomfort are inevitable in life. However, when you are trusting that these are part of the journey, you become more capable of dealing with them. Trust lets you meet difficulties with acceptance, knowing that they will pass after all, rather than being overwhelmed by hardship. You realize that from every challenge comes an opportunity for growth. By trusting the process, you have no fear in embracing adversity, since you know every experience, good or bad, is shaping you into what you need to be. We also unlock the power of intuition with trust. The more we release the need to control and force outcomes, the more mental clarity we are creating to listen to our inner wisdom. In trusting life, we tap into our intuition, that quiet voice within that knows what is right for us. When we're constantly trying to control everything around us, we drown out this inner voice. But when we trust the process, we create space for intuition to guide us in showing the way forward without force. One of the most beautiful aspects of trust is that it helps you connect with others in a more authentic and meaningful way. When we trust the process of life, we also trust the people we encounter along the way. We stop seeing them as obstacles to our success and begin to see them as partners in the journey. Trust allows us to engage with others without the fear of manipulation or control. We are no longer trying to control how people behave or what they think of us. Instead, we allow our relationships to unfold naturally, guided by mutual respect and understanding. In the Buddhist tradition, trust in the process of life is deeply connected to non-attachment to self. When we are attached to a specific identity or outcome, we constantly feel the need to control how others perceive us, how we perform, and how our lives unfold. But trust in life allows us to let go of this attachment, to stop seeing ourselves as rigid, fixed identities, and instead to flow with the natural unfolding of life. We understand that we are not defined by our past, our achievements, or our roles, and that we are free to evolve as life presents new challenges and opportunities. Trust also enhances our ability to forgive, both others and ourselves. When we trust the process, we let go of the need for everything to be fair or right. We begin to understand that life unfolds in ways that we cannot always control, and that holding on to grudges or resentment only creates suffering. Trust allows us to forgive not because we condone the actions of others, but because we trust that life's journey has its own lessons for everyone involved. Letting go of the need for justice or revenge frees us from the weight of anger and resentment, allowing us to experience peace. In practical terms, trust helps us make decisions without confusion or apprehension. Once we learn to trust the unfolding of life, we do not need to obsess about each and every decision, nor waste much time on anxiety about possibly making a wrong choice. Trust empowers us to decide from a place of calm, not fear. We realize that there is no such thing as a perfect decision, but only decisions that resonate with our values and our current understanding of the world. Trust enables us to step forward without regrets, realizing that everything is in continuous movement, as every step we take forms part of the process. When we trust life, we also understand that everything is intimately connected. Through our actions, thoughts, and intentions, we send ripples into the world, influencing others often beyond our comprehension. To trust in life means to believe that one is part of something much greater than oneself. Yet equally, it means recognizing that the universe carries us toward what we need. This interconnectedness is nothing to be controlled but to be embraced. It reminds us to act with kindness, compassion, and understanding, since all we do adds up to the greater whole. Ultimately, trust in life allows us to experience freedom. It's the freedom from fear, from the need to control, and from the pressure to achieve. It's the freedom to live fully in the present, to engage with life without the weight of expectation. Trust is not passive. It's a dynamic engagement with life that allows us to move through challenges, uncertainties, and transitions with grace and ease. When we trust the process, we find that everything falls into place, not because we forced it, but because we allowed it to unfold naturally. As you develop trust in life's flow and let go of the need to control every outcome, you may feel a subtle shift within, a connection to the present moment. Our culture sweeps us up in a maelstrom of preoccupation with the past and future, and peace seems a rare commodity. But when you slow down, take a deep breath, and center yourself in the present, you realize that everything you need is right here, right now. This simple act of focusing on your breath brings you back to your center and helps you release the strain of trying to control the uncontrollable. In Buddhist philosophy, being fully present is a key element in cultivating peace, while the breath serves as an anchor to that practice. When you focus on your breath, you bring the attention of your mind away from distractions back to the only moment that truly exists, the present. This practice of deep breathing and mindfulness helps us step out of the constant noise of the thoughts and reconnect us to our body, the senses, and the flow of life as it is unfolding in real time. The breath is always available to us, yet we often pass over its power. One can immediately shift their mental state simply by taking a deep breath. It dissolves stress, soothes anxiety, and dispels tension. It requires no special talent or gadget, just the ability to focus on something as natural and necessary as your breath. The rhythm of your breath reconnects you to the pulse of life with each inhale and exhale, and in so doing, you let go of the compulsion to control. You let go of that inner voice telling you that you need to hurry, worry, and push. The more you breathe with awareness, the more space you allow for peace to settle within you. Mindfulness is inextricably linked to the breath. In Buddhism, mindfulness is a powerful way of being fully in each moment without judgment or distraction. At a time when this world pulls our attention in 1,000 directions, each breath brings into focus your mindfulness, guiding your awareness back to the here and now, where everything unfolds in due time. With each breath, you step out of the past or future and into the only time that is real. Automatically, you ease strain and stress. The breath is not just a physical act but also one that hugely affects our nervous system and emotional state. When we are anxious or stressed, our breathing becomes shallow, which creates tension in the body-mind cycle. By deepening your breath intentionally, you break that cycle. As you inhale deeply and exhale slowly, your nervous system shifts from one of fight or flight to a state of rest and relaxation. This simple shift in the way you breathe can instantly reduce stress, lower your heart rate, and bring clarity to your mind. Breathing deeply reminds us that we are alive here and present in this moment. Each breath has the power to affirm life. As we tune into our breath, we remember that nothing is required of us in order to exist. No striving, no forcing. We may simply be. It is a freeing realization, allowing us to let go of the constant pursuit of something more and to appreciate the peace inherent in being. Through the breath, we reconnect to the simplicity of life. And in that simplicity, we find freedom from the pressure of control. The breath also has the capacity to bring us into a state of balance. When we get enmeshed in our minds, especially under stress, we tend to lose touch with the present moment. Our bodies and minds become disconnected, and we start to feel overwhelmed. But by focusing on the breath, we restore balance between mind and body. The natural rising and falling rhythm of each breath has a centering effect, bringing clarity and calmness. The more this practice is engaged in, the more aware one becomes of just how closely our thoughts and emotions are interrelated with our physical state. As we develop greater awareness of our breathing, we reinforce the capacity to respond to life with calmness and perspective, rather than react out of anxiety or tension. The act of mindful breathing encourages acceptance of the present moment as it is. Often, the strain in our lives comes from resisting what is happening right now, wishing things were different or worrying about what may come next. The breath invites us to pause and accept the flow of life just as it is. Each breath reminds us that life moves in cycles, and just as we inhale and exhale, so too do the events of our lives ebb and flow. When we let go of resistance and accept the present moment, we allow life to unfold without the need for force or struggle. This acceptance fosters peace and reduces the emotional strain of trying to make things fit into a specific narrative. One of the most powerful aspects of focusing on the breath is how it truly brings us into a state of non-reactivity. When we are caught up in thoughts, it's so easy to be reactive, quick to judge, blame, or criticize. But focusing on the breath allows us to pause before reacting. We create a space between stimulus and response, enabling us to respond with much greater awareness rather than with impulse. This practice of non-reactivity is crucial in breaking the cycle of habitual, automatic responses that so often lead to stress or conflict. By returning to the breath, We can choose how we engage with the world rather than react from a place of unconscious habit. Breathing mindfully also helps us to become aware of the temporary nature of everything. Just as each breath is a fleeting moment, so too are our thoughts, emotions, and circumstances. When we are caught in moments of difficulty or discomfort, it can feel as though those moments will last forever. But by focusing on the breath, we remember that nothing is permanent. Every inhalation and exhalation reminds us that all experiences, whether joyful or painful, are transient. This understanding helps us to navigate life's challenges with greater ease, knowing that they will pass just as our breath flows in and out. Mindful breathing also has a grounding effect. It helps us stay anchored in the present even when external circumstances or internal turmoil threaten to pull us in many directions. The breath is always with us. It's a constant, unchanging presence that connects us to the here and now. Whenever we feel overwhelmed, disconnected, or lost, we can always return to our breath as an anchor. This grounding quality of the breath helps us stay centered, calm, and balanced in the face of uncertainty or stress. As you deepen your awareness of the breath, you also begin to cultivate patience with yourself and others. In today's world, we are often taught to be impatient, always looking for quicker solutions, faster results, and immediate gratification. But the practice of mindful breathing teaches us to slow down and appreciate the process of life. It reminds us that things take time to unfold and that we don't need to rush to the finish line. When we practice patience through the breath, we begin to extend that same patience to the world around us. We stop demanding instant results from others and instead allow them the space to unfold naturally, just as we allow our own breath to come and go without force. The focus on the breath also turns our attention again to self-care. When life is at a rapid pace, we often forget to take care of ourselves. The breath reminds us to stop and take stock of our bodies. Are our shoulders carrying tension? Is our breathing shallow due to stress? By taking a moment to connect with our breath, we reconnect with our body and become more aware of where we are holding our tension or discomfort. This awareness can help us let go of tension and find relief as we learn ways in which to take care of ourselves physically, emotionally, and mentally. With every moment of deep breathing and mindfulness, your mind will start to clear from all the clutter that fills it. The noisiness of your thoughts, worries, and distractions starts to fade as your focus shifts to the present moment. In this space of mental clarity, you can see things more clearly, make decisions wiser, and interact with life in a more meaningful way. The breath supports you in releasing stress and offering insight into perspective. Finally, this practice of breath awareness creates in us, over time, a deeper sense of connection to ourselves and the world around us. We begin to realize the breath is not just a biological function, but a spiritual one that links us into the very rhythm of life. Every inhale can remind us of the life force that runs through us, every exhale a release of what no longer serves us. This dance of the inhale and exhale parallels the dance of life itself, coming into being and gradual letting go of that which we no longer need. In aligning ourselves with this natural flow, it is possible to move through life with more ease, less friction, and peace. As you continue to open yourself to the peace that comes from focusing on the breath, letting go of control, and trusting the rhythm in life, you start to notice a powerful evolution in how you relate to the world around you. Life's ups and downs, its highs and lows, its joy and sorrow, success and failure are inevitable. But what if, instead of fighting against them, you embrace them as the ways of nature? The essence of one of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is this: the wisdom that tells us to look beyond the dualities of life and embrace the contrasts without resistance. We live in a world that really thrives on categorization, labeling everything as good or bad, positive or negative, success or failure. But this dualistic thinking limits us and creates unnecessary suffering. We constantly strive to keep everything in the good column while pushing away what we perceive as bad. In so doing, we find ourselves always struggling against our circumstances, our emotions, and the ever-changing flow of life. But Buddhist teachings invite us to move beyond this binary thinking by showing us that these contrasts need not be struggled against or kept in a balance the way we think they have to be. Contrasts can be embraced as natural parts of the expression of the ebb and flow of life. Buddhism encourages us to observe how everything is impermanent. Our emotions, successes, and hardships are all constantly flowing and changing. We experience moments of joy. They will eventually fade into sadness or challenge. We accomplish something only to find another that requires work. That is the nature of life. But in giving up resistance, we start to feel a deep sense of freedom. Duality, or the action of opposites, is a part of the human condition, but it does not define us. In embracing these opposites without assigning labels of good or bad to them, we step into a deeper understanding of ourselves and the world. The notion of balance often seems like an ideal we should be striving for. We seek to manage the tension between happiness and sadness, success and failure, comfort and discomfort. However, when we focus too much on achieving a perfect equilibrium, we can end up forcing an unnatural stability onto life. Trying to force balance creates a subtle form of resistance. Instead of trying to impose balance, Buddhist teachings encourage us to embrace life's fluctuations naturally. Life will always move between highs and lows, and the more we accept this flow, the less strain we feel. When we resist the contrasts in life, we are often reacting from a place of fear or attachment. We are afraid of the pain that comes from loss or failure, and we attach ourselves to the times of joy and success, never wanting them to end. Unfortunately, this attachment creates suffering because we are always expecting life to be a certain way, whereas nothing stays the same. The more we oppose this natural change, the more we struggle. However, when we open ourselves to life's inevitable contrasts, we begin to stop fighting against what is. We begin to see that joy and sorrow, pleasure and pain, are part of the same continuum, and both can be experienced in peace. That is the true meaning of acceptance in Buddhist philosophy, not to passively allow things to happen to us, but to acknowledge the real state of the present moment without resistance. It is in accepting life's ups and downs that we release ourselves from the need to control life's experiences or avoid those we do not want to face. We allow discomfort and happiness to coexist instead of fighting the one and clinging to the other. Both pass, and both are necessary for our growth. Embracing this truth allows us to move through life with more ease because we are no longer in a constant struggle to keep things in one state. The practice of mindfulness supports this acceptance. Mindfulness invites us to experience each moment fully without judgment. We observe life as it is rather than trying to categorize it into good or bad. This practice helps us detach from our habitual reactions, like the tendency to avoid discomfort or chase after pleasure. Instead, mindfulness teaches us to be present with what is happening right now, accepting both the pleasant and the unpleasant aspects of our experience. When we do this, we see that both sides of the coin are just that, two sides of the same experience. Neither is more real or important than the other. They simply arise and pass away. And by observing them with mindfulness, we free ourselves from the weight of judgment and resistance. The concept of emptiness in Buddhist thought teaches that no thing inherently is any particular way. Everything is in flux and related to everything else. Life's contrasts, good and bad, joy and pain, are not opposites at all, but just different representations of the same process. Emptiness teaches us that things arise, exist for a time, and then fade away. With this insight, we let go of the compulsion to label life's experiences, since they are all part of one seamless process. We do not need to compartmentalize our lives into neat little packages, but allow them simply to be. This is also deeply related to the Buddhist principle of non-attachment. When we are attached to the idea that certain experiences are good and others bad, we create unnecessary tension. We fight against what we don't want while desperately clinging to what we do. But when we release our attachments to any particular outcome, we stop fighting against life's natural ebbs and flows. We stop forcing a balance between competing forces and allow them to coexist instead. The more we practice non-attachment, the more we can experience life's polarities without judgment or resistance. Another important aspect of embracing duality is compassion. When we encounter pain or suffering in someone else, our first instinct may be to want to fix it or change it because we don't want people to feel discomfort. Yet Buddhism teaches us that we can't save ourselves or others from life's polarities. Everyone, including ourselves, needs to experience the range of emotions and experiences. What we have to offer is our presence and compassion, acknowledging the ups and downs of life and not trying to make them go away. Compassion means sitting with others in their pain and joy, knowing both are part of their journey. In living with both poles, we learn to live with acceptance and understanding, rather than trying to manipulate or control what is happening. As the nature of duality is further explored, you start to realize that freedom doesn't come from getting that perfect balance between opposites, but from realizing that both extremes belong to one and the same experience. The more you allow life to unfold in its natural rhythm, the less you need to struggle with its ups and downs. Rather than seeking to avoid discomfort or cling to comfort, you begin to move through life open to all experiences, knowing each one has something to teach. This, then, is freedom, to experience life completely without having to force the scales toward balance or compel certain outcomes. One of the most profound teachings in Buddhism is that everything is interconnected. The contrasts of life, though they may appear to be opposites, are ultimately interdependent. There can be no light without darkness. There can be no joy without pain. It is within this interdependence that we may embrace the contrasts of life without resistance. We understand that all experiences are part of a larger whole, and that we are constantly moving between these different states as we evolve. Each high or low moment is part of the flow of life, and in accepting it, we are free from the compulsion to categorize, label, or judge. In embracing life's polarities, we are also cultivating in ourselves a deeper sense of wisdom. Wisdom is the capacity to perceive things as they truly are outside the distortion of judgment or attachment. It is the capacity to see that the contrasts in life are not separate or opposing forces, but part of the same unfolding process. This wisdom allows us to navigate life's difficulties with grace, knowing that both joy and sorrow will pass, and each has its own value. Seen in this light, we begin not to perceive dualities as threats or burdens, but as intrinsic parts of our human experience. As we release the urge to force balance and allow the contrasts in life to be as they are, peace arises. Peace will not come from avoiding life's ups and downs, but from embracing it as part of the natural scheme of things. And in so doing, the sense of peace that will grow inside us will be strong enough to withstand any eventuality that comes into our lives. We stop trying to control life's flow and instead allow ourselves to move with it, trusting that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This is the essence of the Buddhist path, to embrace life fully in all its highs and lows, its joy and pain, its successes and failures without resistance. Of course, transcending duality means learning to live in harmony with the world, not fighting it, but flowing. Through this acceptance, we free ourselves from the struggle and find a peace that lies beyond life's dualities. Embracing life's flow, truly understanding the nature of duality, and thereby relieving the stress of trying to force balance may open your eyes even further to a deeper truth. A truth that reveals itself in every area of your life, in every relationship, and in every goal you have set for yourself. The very subtle yet powerful hold expectations place on the mind. Expectations come with almost any desire we have, the desire for a particular outcome that matches our hopes, dreams, and plans. What if these very expectations, this constant striving after something specific, were at the core of much of our suffering? In Buddhism, it is taught that expectations, when not kept in check, set us up for disappointment. We live in a world of possibilities, yet we often cling to inflexible ideas about the way things should be. This leads us to a continuous pattern of desiring outcomes, pinning our happiness upon them. and ultimately being disappointed when they do not turn out as imagined. Every time one of our expectations isn't met, it leaves us disenchanted, frustrated, or even angry. But the truth is, the problem doesn't lie in life being unpredictable or in the failures that occur, but in our attachment to certain outcomes. When we stop clinging to these, we will start breaking free from this circle of disappointment and opening ourselves to a more liberated way of experiencing life. Expectation is based upon the concept that control over something in life is obtainable. We set our eyes on an outcome, a goal, or a desire, and we attach ourselves to it as if it will guarantee happiness. But with that comes the building of an illusion of certainty in an uncertain world. We believe that if we can control the outcome, we can control our emotional state. Life is full of uncertainty and change, and no matter how hard we may work at trying to force things into an outcome we want, they do not always fall according to plan. The more we link our happiness to these external outcomes, the more we find ourselves on a roller coaster of ups and downs, constantly fighting with disappointment when things don't go as imagined. The Buddhist concept of non-attachment offers a powerful antidote to this cycle. But it does not mean that non-attachment tantamounts to indifference. It means involvement in life, and yet not clinging to a specific outcome. That is to say, our happiness does not depend upon whether or not things turn out the way we want them to. By letting go of the need for specific outcomes, we free ourselves from the constant cycle of disappointment. That is not to say we stop setting goals or stop trying to achieve certain things. We simply let go of our attachment to the result so that no matter what the outcome is, peace remains ours. The attachment to expectations often causes suffering because it places our emotional well-being in the hands of external factors. When we tie our happiness to specific events, people, or achievements, we set ourselves up for disappointment when those things don't meet our expectations. This is not to say that we shouldn't aim for meaningful goals or aspirations, but rather that we should approach them with a sense of openness and flexibility. We must learn to embrace life as it unfolds without rigidly adhering to how we think things should be. When we stop clinging to the outcome, we find that the journey itself holds the true rewards. Freedom from attachment to outcome is about letting go of a preconceived storyline of what my life should look like. Our stories are intertwined with picture-perfect cultural models, combined with our own wishes and urges of others around us. We just can't see reality as it is. If our expectations are not met, we feel that reality has failed us, and that we have been denied the happiness or success we are entitled to. This line of thought only creates more unnecessary suffering. The key is to let go of the need for things to go in a specific way and accept the way things are. The moment we stop resisting, we make space for peace and acceptance, and the disappointment becomes an opening toward growth and learning. Expectation often comes from a profound sense of lack, not being good enough, or needing something outside ourselves to complete ourselves. And because we are always striving for completion in circumstances, there is disappointment. Nothing external will ever truly satisfy us, and that is a lesson from Buddhism. Happiness comes from within, and by letting go of attachment to outcomes, we find peace again. We stop looking to the world for confirmation and begin to find it in our own being. When we let go of the need for outcomes, we allow ourselves to be open to the moment, where true contentment resides. The most freeing part about releasing expectations is being in the present moment. By letting go of needs for things to turn out a certain way, we can show up in our life as it is and not through constant mental chatter of wanting things to be different. In this presence, clarity, peace, and appreciation for what is right now, not for what is hoped to occur, can be felt. We start to live more fully, appreciating nuances in every moment, yet not feeling burdened by any expectations of how those moments will affect the future. When we are constantly attached to expectations, we also limit ourselves by narrowing our field of vision regarding what is possible. We may attach to a certain outcome or goal, convincing ourselves that our happiness or success depends on it. This narrow focus blinds us from so many possibilities that life offers us. By releasing the rigid expectations that are set within us, we open ourselves to the newer possibilities we never thought existed, therefore letting life surprise us in ways we could never have planned. Equally important in Buddhism is letting go of control with regard to people and situations, not just outcomes. When we expect others to act in a certain way, or when we try to control their behaviors and decisions, we set ourselves up for tension and frustration. The tighter we attempt to control, the more resistance we build up, and the more disappointed we get when these things do not take shape as we would have wished. Letting go of the need to control others is a very powerful practice of non-attachment. This frees us from the burden of trying to mold a world with people in it, and allows us to accept people simply for what they are, not imposing our expectations upon them. Acceptance is the complementary practice of non-attachment. Acceptance does not mean resignation, but means acknowledging the reality as such without trying to change or manipulate it. When we accept that life is unpredictable and things do not always go as planned, we stop fighting against what is. This acceptance will reduce our stress and disappointment because we do not measure our happiness by external circumstances. Instead, we allow ourselves to flow with life, trusting that each moment is an opportunity for growth, even if it doesn't match our expectations. The key to breaking free from this vicious circle of disappointment is awareness, the awareness that it is our attachment to expectations that creates our suffering. The more we are aware of the expectations we place upon ourselves, others, and life itself, the more we can choose to let go. Awareness allows us to recognize when we are attaching our happiness to an outcome, and it gives us the freedom to choose a different path. Rather than holding on to what should happen, we can engage with life fully, trusting that what transpires is exactly what we need. Buddhism teaches us that in letting go of attachment to specific outcomes, we come into alignment with the natural flow. It is here that karma plays its vital role. In acting with pure intention, not with expectation, positive karma is naturally unfolded. Where there is non-attachment, our actions can be guided by wisdom, compassion, and clarity, rather than by the need for a particular result. This makes space for life to respond with grace, offering the best possible outcome without the strain of effort and control. It is also necessary to acknowledge that disappointment in itself is not a bad thing. It occurs when our expectations are not met, but this very disappointment helps us evolve and learn. When we release the need for outcomes, we will stop considering disappointment to be something we prevent or resist. In return, we see it as an opportunity for reflection and learning. Disappointment becomes the teacher, showing us where our attachment lies and guiding us toward greater acceptance and peace. Freeing oneself from the circle of disappointment involves neither giving up on dreams nor goals. Instead, it involves openness and flexibility in their approach. When we no longer tie our happiness to a specific result, we open ourselves to the possibility that something even better might unfold. Non-attachment frees us from the anxiety of needing things to go a certain way and allows us to embrace life's surprises, knowing that whatever happens, we can handle it with grace and equanimity. The more we practice non-attachment, the more we experience freedom, freedom from the pressure of expectations, freedom from needing to control outcomes, and freedom from the endless pursuit of something that might not ever come. Let go of the need for specific results, and we will be able to approach life with grace in the moment, without attachment to what might or might not occur. This freedom brings us closer to our true selves. We can then live fully in the present moment, free from the burden of disappointment and unmet expectations. As you begin to let go of rigid expectations and the constant pressure to control outcomes, you might start to notice a shift in your mind, an internal peace that feels rare in today's world. The more you embrace the flow of life, free from the mental strain of attachment and frustration, the more you begin to sense an underlying stillness. It's a quiet space that holds within it the potential to dissolve the tension that often leads to conflict in our thoughts, emotions, and actions. To cultivate this peace more fully, there is a powerful tool that the Buddha shared with us: meditation. Meditation is not just a practice. It's a profound journey that, when embraced fully, can transform the very way we live and experience the world. Buddhist meditation offers a unique path to inner peace by helping us let go of mental conflict and inner tension. We carry so much weight within us, with thoughts of worry, resentment, or fear, that it feels impossible to experience the lightness of life. The mind races, emotions fluctuate, and we drown in the cacophony. In these moments, we cannot think clearly or find direction. Yet, meditation serves as a practice that allows us to let go of this clutter, creating the space necessary for mental clarity and emotional calm. As you get into meditation, you learn to separate yourself from the chatter of the mind, realizing that you are not your thoughts. With this, you learn how much of your internal conflict is deeply rooted in identifying with your thoughts, feelings, and desires. Meditation allows you to observe them rather than get entangled in them. As you sit quietly, focusing on your breath, you create the space to observe the thoughts and emotions that arise without judgment. It's this practice of observation that reduces the power of such thoughts over you, letting them come and go like clouds across the sky. The more you do this, the lesser the mental conflict, and the more you are in a position to live as your true self. Buddhist meditation also helps us release attachment to the constant demands of the mind. Sometimes we think that for peace to prevail, our thoughts, emotions, or circumstances must be fixed. Meditation teaches us, however, that peace does not come from achieving or fixing but from ceasing to resist. When the mind is not pushed and pressured to conform to our demands to behave in a certain way, it naturally settles. This letting go is the heart of meditation. The more we control, the more resistance we build up. But when we sit in stillness, letting go of the need to be in control, then a natural flow takes place, which brings ease. One of the most profound things that meditation can bring about is the capability to experience the present moment free from regret over the past and concern about the future. Our minds feel so caught by the mental talk that seems to go on and on within them. We replay old conversations, go over mistakes we have made, or are in constant planning for what is still ahead. This continuous thought cycle creates a sense of mental overload, making us tired and disconnected from the now. Meditation breaks this vicious circle by guiding us gently back to the present. As we breathe, we train our minds to focus on the present at this moment awareness of life. We let go of mental struggle and invite peace and presence more deeply into our lives. This may feel challenging at first, as our minds are so used to grasping for thoughts or planning for the future. Meditation teaches us that we do not need to grasp for anything, that we do not need to control what arises in the mind. We simply allow it to come and go. The more this is practiced, the more one begins to realize that thoughts are temporary. They do not define you. They come and go like waves upon the ocean. The more you let them flow without attaching meaning or judgment to them, the more you find your mind naturally settling into ease. This practice is not only about decreasing inner conflict, rather, it's about changing your relationship to thoughts. Instead of seeing them as an obstacle to peace, you start to realize they are an opportunity for growth. There is a certain concept in Buddhism referred to as mindful awareness. This is the practice of being fully aware of the present moment without judgment and expectation. It's not about getting rid of thoughts, but about acceptance of them just as they are, impermanent and transient. This awareness transforms your relationship with your mind and helps you experience your thoughts as they are impermanent and transient. The more you practice, the less weight they carry, and the more easily you'll be able to move through life without getting bogged down by them. You also start to notice, as you meditate, how inner tension takes hold in your body. When we feel stress, anger, or fear, we usually store the emotions within our body, the result of which is physical tension. Over time, this builds up, manifesting as discomfort, pain, or illness. By practicing mindfulness and meditation, we learn to know how these emotions present themselves in our bodies and how to let them go. Focusing on the breath and bringing awareness to the body can soften the physical tension, releasing it with each exhalation. Letting go of this tension helps us feel lighter, more at ease, and more in tune with our bodies. Meditation, in this sense, isn't simply about quieting the mind. It's really about relieving the tension in both mind and body. The more you meditate, the more you realize that mental conflict and stress arise from attachment. Attachment to the way things should be, to desires, expectations, and the need to control. Meditation teaches us to release this attachment. Instead of forcing our thoughts or emotions to align with our ideal version of reality, we learn to be present with whatever arises. This process of non-attachment is incredibly liberating. It helps us stop fighting with ourselves and the world around us, freeing us from the mental strain of trying to make everything fit into a preconceived notion of how things should be. Buddhist meditation also helps us develop a deeper compassion for ourselves. So often, we are our harshest critics. We judge ourselves for not being good enough or for not living up to our own expectations. Meditation allows us to step back from these judgments and to simply be with ourselves as we are. In this space, we cultivate self-compassion, a gentle acceptance of ourselves with all of our flaws, fears, and imperfections. This self-compassion naturally spreads to others, helping us approach the world with a sense of kindness and understanding rather than inner conflict that may result in judgment or resentment. The practice of meditation also helps develop a sense of equanimity in us. The ups and downs in life do not seem as jarring because we learn to approach them with the same tranquil acceptance. For it is joy or sorrow, success or failure. All these states of feeling are part of the same current of life. By meditating, we strengthen our ability to stay firm despite any situation that may occur in life. We begin to act with wisdom and clarity rather than impulsively responding with emotion. This equanimity enables us to experience ups and downs in life with more peace and not be at their mercy. Meditation not only creates mental clarity, but also fosters a deep sense of gratitude. The more we become aware of the present moment, the more we start appreciating the simplicity and beauty that exists all around us. We learn to see the richness of life even in the most ordinary moments. Gratitude becomes a natural byproduct of mindfulness. And this sense of gratitude feeds a feeling of contentment and joy that doesn't come from external achievements, but from just being alive and present in the moment. As meditation deepens, we also start to feel more connected with others. The more we develop peace within ourselves, the more it radiates outwards. We cease to perceive others as obstacles, competitors, or sources of frustration. Instead, we see these other people as fellow sojourners. This shift in perspective brings greater compassion, patience, and understanding. We approach our relationships with more openness, kindness, and authenticity, therefore giving us the means with which we can cultivate deeper and more meaningful connections. Ultimately, meditation teaches us to live with ease. We no longer struggle in the current of life, against ourselves, or against others. We no longer struggle to fit our expectations of life. Instead, we learn to accept life as it comes, with all its uncertainties and challenges. Meditation is the means to align us with life's natural rhythm and develop calm, clarity, and inner peace. The more we practice, the more we let go of inner conflict and mental tension, allowing ourselves to be in life with its beauty and simplicity. Meditation helps us learn not only to live more easily, but also more gracefully through any circumstance that arises. As you start taking your journey into the transformative power of meditation, releasing inner conflict and embracing the natural flow of life, you may begin to sense something more profound: silence. We live in an unremitting barrage of noise, both outside ourselves and within our own thoughts. We are directed toward a world that prizes constant action, constant communication, and constant doing. As you deepen your practice and realize the peace that comes from letting go of mental tension, you might realize it's in the silence, internal and external, where true clarity and insight come. Silence, it turns out, has a secret power, one that can revolutionize the way we live, think, and relate to the world around us. The world outside is noisy, people chattering, devices buzzing, and distractions galore. But often, the noise inside of us is even louder. The mind races with thoughts, worries, desires, and judgments, always tugging at our attention and pulling us out of the present moment. In that noise, it is easy to lose touch with the clarity and wisdom within. Silence, developed in the surroundings and cultivated in the mind, provides the space needed for those deeper truths to emerge. Buddhism teaches us that silence is not the absence of sound, but the presence of something far more potent: stillness. Stillness is not a passive state. It is an active participation in the present moment, a place where we listen deeply to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. It is in stillness that we find clarity to make choices, to navigate through any difficulty, and to resonate with our inner self. In quiet moments, devoid of the constant buzzing of thoughts and distractions, life truly reveals itself sans the filter of judgment or expectation. We live in a society that's always pushing us to be busy, to do more, to speak louder, and to fill every gap with activity. Silence feels uncomfortably, almost unnatural, because we have been conditioned to believe that doing is the path to success, to meaning, and to fulfillment. It's within silence that we begin to see the opposite. It is in the absence of noise that we find room to hear the wisdom of our own hearts and minds. Silence creates space for us to stop doing and simply be. In this being, we begin to connect more deeply with ourselves, others, and the flow of life itself. The power of silence has to do with non-attachment. Just as we learn to let go of our need to control outcomes and release expectations, so too we learn to release the attachment to the constant noise of the world. We are no longer clinging to the notion that we must always be doing something or talking about something to be of any value. Silence shows us that we need not prove our worth through doing or words. Our value lies in simply being and being present with ourselves and the world without the need for anything external. We allow our natural flow of thoughts, emotions, and experiences to unfold without forcing themselves into the mold of external expectations. When we surrender to silence, it is in this practice of silence that we really begin to realize the true power of mindfulness. Mindfulness is often practiced through quiet, focus on the breath, sensations in the body, or thoughts that arise and pass. The more we practice silence, the more we become attuned to the present moment. In those moments of awareness, there is an access to clarity not available to us when we are so distracted by noise or mental chatter. Silence allows us to be observant without judgment, to witness what is arising within and around us without getting caught up in it. This kind of mindfulness brings deeper understanding of true nature, untainted by the distortions of external noise or internal distractions. Besides mental clarity, silence nurtures inner peace. As we make room for silence in our lives, we come to know a peace that is not dependent upon what is happening around us. The noise of the world, the demands of others, and the constant tug of our own thoughts start to lose their hold on us. As we create silence, we come to know a stillness that permeates our being. This stillness is not a void or an emptiness, but a deep sense of connection to the present moment, a sense of being grounded and centered no matter what is happening around us. It is from this stillness that we can navigate life's challenges with grace, responding to them with wisdom and compassion rather than reacting out of fear or stress. Silence also brings about a deep connection to the natural flow of life. We often become disconnected from life's natural rhythms because we are caught up in the noise of our minds and the external world. But as we practice silence, we begin to attune ourselves to the ebb and flow of life as it naturally unfolds. This connection to the flow of life brings us greater acceptance of life's fluctuations and sorrow, success and failure, pleasure and pain, understanding that all are temporary and part of the same cycle. It is in silence that we learn to flow with the rhythms of life, rather than trying to force life around our desires or expectations. And this acceptance of life as it is, without resistance, brings us greater peace and ease. It is in silence that the mind finds space for reflection. It is in those quiet moments that, away from distractions, we are able to reflect on our actions, thoughts, and experiences. Reflection is a big part of Buddhist practice because it allows us to get an insight into our own behavior and patterns. In silence, the mind can observe itself without judgment, without trying to change yet understand it. It is through understanding of the mind, its fears, desires, and habits, that we get insight into our real nature. And this understanding frees us to make more conscious choices and not be bound by the limiting patterns of our minds. Another powerful aspect of silence is its ability to engender compassion. When we are quiet and still, we become more present with others. We begin to listen more deeply not just to their words, but the energy and emotions behind those words. In the stillness of silence, we are better able to feel the needs of others and offer empathy and understanding without needing to fill the space with our own thoughts or opinions. Silence allows us to be fully present, offering a kind of attention that is rare in a world where people are often caught up with themselves. With silence, we connect with others more meaningfully and foster deeper relationships built on mutual respect and understanding. Silence is a doorway to interior change. It is only when we cease to fill our lives with noise and distraction that we start to peel back the layers that obscure our true selves. In that stillness, we commence confrontation with those parts of ourselves we have long ignored or suppressed. The mind can be filled with fears, regrets, desires that have kept us from fully embracing who we are. But in the silence, we can no longer distract ourselves from these inner battles. Instead, we confront them head-on with compassion and understanding. This confrontation with the inner world may be challenging, but is a necessary step toward healing and change. And the more that one sits with the self in silence, the more he uncovers the wisdom, strength, and peace within him. The power of silence also helps us release emotional baggage. Often, we carry emotional wounds from the past, holding onto pain, resentment, or anger. These create inner turmoil that never allows us peace. But when we sit in silence, we create space to process and release these emotions. It's easier for us to feel the emotions all the way through without being overtaken by them. We can acknowledge such emotions through mindfulness in silence without judgment, allowing them to arise and pass without clinging onto them. This release of emotional tension allows us to move forward with a lighter heart, free of the weight from unresolved feelings. Finally, the practice of silence nurtures our ability to embrace the unknown. The mind often wants to know for certain what is going to happen, to control the unfolding of life. But in silence, we allow ourselves to sit with uncertainty. We let go of needing to know all the answers constantly and instead embrace the mystery of life. And this not knowing allows us to free ourselves from anxiety and worry, to move forward in trust, in openness. Silence reminds us that we don't have to know, that we just have to trust that life will unfold in due time, and that we are completely capable of navigating whatever comes our way. In embracing silence, we open to greater wisdom, peace, and clarity. It is through stillness that we can connect to our deepest truth, break free from the noise holding us back, and experience life with more ease and understanding. By making space for silence in our lives, we cultivate a more mindful, compassionate, and centered way of being. In this silence, we find the key to living with true clarity and grace, without those distractions that keep us from experiencing life. As you embrace silence and the power of stillness, you will begin to realize that peace does not come from a struggle or force. Success in our world is thought to be earned by unending effort, striving, and doing. But Buddhism gives a very different perspective. It says that peace is not achieved by struggle but through acceptance and understanding. And this approach shows that the more we try to forcefully achieve peace, the farther away we go from it. Only in the letting go of this constant battle and surrendering to life, as is, can the path to enlightenment truly be found. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment is not a place. It is a natural state of being that arises when we stop resisting life. It is not achieved by forceful effort, but by the cultivation of mindfulness, compassion, and non-resistance. It is hard to fathom, in a world that values achievement and effort above all else, that true peace does not come from pushing forward but from stepping back and allowing life to be as it is. In releasing the need to control, we make space for peace to enter our lives. The perception of a non-forceful path to enlightenment goes against so much we are socialized to believe. To be successful, we need to push ourselves beyond our limits, overcome obstacles by the power of will, and achieve constantly. But Buddhism reveals that true power does not come from control, but from the willingness to yield to what is. Pushing against life's natural current merely creates more resistance and suffering. Indeed, instead of complaining, enlightenment means embracing life's impermanence and grasping both joy and sorrow, success and failure, as part of the same process. For the more we resist, the more we struggle, and the further we move away from that peaceful place that is inside. The Buddhist path encourages us to recognize that life is continuously in a flux of change, and we cannot mold life to our will. It is in the acceptance of the above truth that inner peace is released from conflict, as is outer peace with the world. The tension arises within and with the world when we go against the flow of life. But when we accept life as it is without judgment or attachment, we begin to experience deep peace from knowing that everything is impermanent and changing. Rather than forcing outcomes, the Buddhist approach emphasizes practicing mindful awareness. This is the art of being fully present with whatever arises, without judgment and without the need to change it. In practicing mindfulness, we cease to struggle to control our thoughts, emotions, or external circumstances. Instead, we allow ourselves to observe life as it is without resistance. It is this simple shift from force to acceptance that allows us to release much of the internal tension that prevents us from seeing things as they are. Through acceptance of whatever arises, we can respond with wisdom and compassion rather than react out of fear, frustration, or attachment. Non-resistance is not about being passive. It is about active participation in life from a place of calm and clarity. It's about stepping into life without trying to force or control outcomes. Buddhism teaches us we're always in the midst of change, and resisting such change has only led us to misery. When we accept changes in life, be it pleasurable or painful, without trying to control them, we find peace. Non-resistance allows you to move through life with the currents of change, as opposed to fighting against them. The notion of a non-forceful path to enlightenment invites us to question the manner in which we relate to our desires and goals. We often seem to imagine that the only way to achieve something is to chase it relentlessly, striving and pushing ourselves to the limit. But in Buddhism, it is revealed that desire, if unchecked, may be a cause of suffering. The more we chase with an obsessive mind, the more we attach the happiness of our being to that one outcome, and this is when frustration sets in. Instead, Buddhism teaches that we can realize our goals, but not by using force. Rather, we act with intention, focusing on the immediate, finding alignment in the flow of life toward achieving our goals without struggle. When we practice non-resistance, we learn to embrace the paradoxes of life, the contradictions that lie within us and in the world around us. Life consists of opposites, light and dark, joy and sorrow, success and failure. In the West, we see these as opposites that must be somehow reconciled or eliminated. But in Buddhism, we realize that these contrasts represent the same process. Without darkness, there would be no light. Without sorrow, no joy. Life balances on the dynamic interplay of these forces. And when we cease our struggles to force everything to fit neatly into one category or another, we free ourselves from the burden of forcing a balance. Rather, we begin to embrace the natural rhythms of life, to find peace in the ebb and flow. One of the deepest teachings along the Buddhist path is the practice of equanimity. Equanimity is the ability to stay balanced and composed, undeterred by life's ups and downs. Equanimity allows us to accept life's highs and lows without grasping onto either. Equanimity does not mean detaching from life or emotions. It means living them fully without getting caught up in them. In practicing equanimity, we cease to struggle to control our reactions to ups and downs in life. We allow ourselves to feel deeply, but do not become overwhelmed by those feelings. We learn to respond with clarity and compassion no matter the situation. In the Buddhist view, enlightenment is letting go of attachment to highs and lows. We tend to grasp onto the joyful moments, things that are working well in our lives and want them to stay forever. And yet, when we attach ourselves to the good, so to speak, we place ourselves in a position also to be disappointed when things shift. On the one hand, we resist the painful moments, which create more suffering. Rather, Buddhism teaches that we can face everything that happens in life, both the highs and the lows, without attaching ourselves to these experiences. We can feel joy without attachment to it, and we can feel pain without resisting it. That is how peace is found. That is our liberation. Surrender is a big part of the Buddhist path. It means letting go of having to be in control and trusting the process of life itself. Surrender does not mean giving up. Rather, it is releasing the need to push, manipulate, and force things. It is about trusting that life will unravel in its own time, and that everything we want is already in our hands. To surrender into the process of life requires patience, but concurrently, such patience invites peace. When one surrenders into the life process, he is freed from the perpetual strain of trying to manage the unmanageable. Through this practice of non-resistance, we begin to experience a deep sense of trust in life itself. Coming to trust life doesn't mean we stop making efforts or setting goals. It means we stop expecting that things will unfold according to our specific desires. Instead, we trust that everything is unfolding exactly as it should. This trust in the process of life brings ease and acceptance, knowing that no matter what happens, we can handle it with grace. The Buddhist path of enlightenment does not force and push one forward through will and muscle. Rather, it is about letting go of the compulsion to struggle onto accepting life as it is and responding with wisdom, clarity, and compassion. The more we practice non-resistance, the more we align ourselves with the natural flow of life, and thereby, the more peace we come to experience. Through acceptance, patience, and trust, we draw closer to the wisdom and freedom that comes from embracing life's ups and downs without forcing the scales toward balance. This is the non-forced path of enlightenment, a path that does not lead through struggle but through acceptance and understanding. As we have explored on this journey, the key to living a life of peace, clarity, and true happiness does not lie in force or constant struggle, but rather in surrendering to the natural flow of life. In letting go of forcing, in letting go of rigid expectations, in releasing the need to control every outcome, we create space for life to unfold with ease. Through Buddhist wisdom, we learn that patience, trust, and acceptance are not passive states but active, guiding us toward a life of ease. Every step in non-resistance through meditation, embracing silence, or understanding the law of impermanence brings us closer to the freedom we seek. Life is not something to be conquered, it is something to be experienced. And when we stop forcing, when we allow ourselves to flow in rhythm with life, we open to a deeper sense of peace and fulfillment. It is in those quiet moments of stillness, in the letting go of expectations, and in embracing life's natural contrasts that we find our place in the world. Now, I would love to hear from you. How have you experienced moments of letting go, trusting life's flow? Share with me in the comments section below. I'd love to hear your reflections and the insights that you've gained on this journey. And please do subscribe to the channel for more wisdom on how to live a life of ease, balance, and true fulfillment. Turn on the notifications so that you never miss a transformative moment. Let's continue on this path of peace together.